Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most unexpectedly terrifying FNAF fan games ever made. These are games that seem harmless at first, but end up being way creepier and more intense than anyone expects. From shocking atmosphere shifts to moments that completely catch players off guard, these fan games know exactly how to surprise you, so let's dive into them. The original FNAF lore, arguably one of the most confusing and frustrating pieces of media ever created, with several retcons, horrendous retellings, frustrating timeline and universe splits, and so many other headaches. Five Nights at Freddy's definitely has a reputation for pretty terrible storytelling, but that's where fan-made remakes can come into play. Today, we'll be covering a game called Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87, a remake of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is undoubtedly the FNAF game that started the trend of, let's just make the lore of our game as confusing as possible. FNAF Rewritten serves to retell the same story that FNAF 2 did, but in a more concise and enjoyable way, while also making the core gameplay loop of the game better than the original dumpster fire that was FNAF 2 and its gameplay loop. I hope you're excited, because we've got a lot to talk about today. So grab a pet, grab some snacks, and join me today as we dive into the creatively amazing world of FNAF Rewritten 87. FNAF Rewritten 87 opens with a playable cutscene. We see Spring Bonnie standing in front of us. He calls us Gabriel, the child in the Freddy suit, and tells us to follow him. As we walk through the opening credits, we stumble upon a door. We, very creepily, I will add, see Spring Bonnie open the door, only to see Freddy sitting on the table. Oh my god. Walking inside, we get snatched up and stuffed inside of the suit. Who could have seen that one coming? Upon waking up, surprisingly not dead, or actually, who knows, maybe we are actually dead and we're just seeing through our soul at this point, we watch as Freddy and the other characters perform on stage, knowing that there is at least one dead child in one of them. However, I think we can infer that there are probably children inside of Bonnie and Chica as well. We learn about the restaurant shutting down and being bought by a bigger company, only for the whole franchise to be remodeled with safety in mind. Afterwards, we're dropped straight into night one. However, it doesn't begin in the way that most FNAF games begin. This time around, we actually start in a 3D environment, being able to walk around and explore the building to our heart's desires. Except that's a fucking lie because we can't go where Mangle and the puppet are. What? Oh my fucking god. And we can't go into the back rooms. Curiously enough, the only two places I really wanted to go, so that was a bit of a bummer. Hearing the phone ringing, we walk into the back office and really begin the night. Phone guy gives us the typical boring speech nobody really cares about. Let's start talking about what the game changes from the original. I'm sure you could already guess, but this game's building is set up a lot differently than the original. To start, let's talk about the kitchen. The kitchen replaces one of the party rooms from the original, and actually there are plenty of employees-only areas throughout the building that connect various areas. For example, using employee-only hallways, you can walk from the kitchen to the back room, which, yes, you still cannot enter from this angle either. I know, disappointing. These new locations aren't necessarily important per se, but I do think that they're a very nice touch and serve to make this game feel reminiscent of FNAF 2 without just being a direct copy of it, and I like that. The tools at our disposal, however, are exactly the same. Flashlight, cameras, Freddy mask. However, the flashlight does work a bit differently from the original, but I'll explain that more once we start talking about a certain fat bastard. So, who are the threats introduced on this night? Well, to start, of course, we have Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica, and Toy Freddy. Okay, so this game definitely lays a lot on you. Not that that's a bad thing. If anything, it's a good thing because it gives me more to talk and complain about in this video and gives you guys a longer video because of that. Let's start with Toy Bonnie, the worst character to ever walk the face of the earth. Toy Bonnie does exactly what he does in the original. He'll make his way through the building and into your right vent. Where do you think you're going? Oh my fucking god, dude. Once you see him in your office, put the Freddy mask on, and you'll get to watch him crip walk into your office. The animations in this game, by the way, are really awesome, so get used to it. Toy Chica, while being the hottest character I've ever seen in my life, is pretty much the same as she is in the original. She struts around, my jaw drops like a cartoon character, and my eyes pop out whenever I see her, and my tongue comically falls to the floor, and she makes her way to your left vent. Oh my God, come here, bro. However, before she does, you can see her in the hallway and literally watch her fent walk into the party room. Seriously, look at the way she initially bends backwards to start walking. That's disgusting. Anyways, once you see her in your vent, put the Freddy mask on. However, unlike the original where she just disappears, much like FNAF 2 Reimagined, Chica does actually come out of the vent like Toy Bonnie and stares into your eyes for a bit. While most people would just wait for her to leave, I actually toss around the thought of taking the mask off and allowing her to start digging in me. I could talk about my attraction to Toy Chica for days on end, but let's move on to talking about the final threat this night introduces, Toy Freddy. The fat ass, whale ass, elephant ass, hippopotamus ass, dump truck ass, island in the ocean ass, massive ass, gargantuan ass, obese ass, folds on folds ass, looking fat ass, fucking fat ass robot. Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy, Toy Freddy, while morbidly obese, if you weren't aware, is actually the first character in this game to do something completely different from the original, which I actually think is really great. A problem I have with FNAF 2 is the amount of characters that all do the same thing. While you could argue that Withered Freddy is supposed to be the main character for FNAF 2, given the fact his face is on the icon, I actually think Toy Freddy is a better fit for the main character, just given the environment the game takes place in and the overall theming of the game. And to have your main character do something as boring as Toy Freddy does, aka just walk through the hall and appear in your office, it just feels so boring and lazy. Toy Freddy in this game is actually just an asshole. If you look on your camera map, you will see 4 cameras that have a thick green ring around them. These cameras each have a breaker box inside of them. Occasionally, Toy Freddy will laugh, signifying that he's about to do something devious like putting his hand in the cookie jar, only to find out that it's empty because his sausage finger ass already put his hand in the cookie jar 36 other times today. When you hear him laugh, he'll appear next to any one of these 4 breaker boxes. You'll have to quickly find which one he appeared at and flash your camera light at him and he'll go away. He's afraid of the light, which would make sense given his build. I'm willing to bet he's the type of guy to sit in the dark at his computer all day playing a World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Valorant, or something really niche like EverQuest. So light being his weakness makes total sense. Also, we know this fat ass plays games all day and does nothing else because playing a video game is literally his mechanic in Ultimate Custom Night. This is canon, guys. He's a fat piece of shit. Scott confirmed it. He actually called me last week to tell me, quote, "Hey yo dog, Toy Freddy is a fat piece of shit, you feel me?" And I was like, fuck yeah dog, I feel you. Anyways, moving on to the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to night 2. The way the camera in this office controls. There's no other real way to describe it except fucking awful. It just feels really bad and awkward to control. It lags behind your mouse, which I'm pretty sure was intentional, but it just feels off. I was trying to click Toy Freddy's nose in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, and I just literally couldn't get the camera to stop freaking the fuck out while I was trying to do so. On top of that, there's this weird stutter it has when you go near the vents. You'll go to click on a vent to shine your light at it, but before you can, for no reason the camera will just stutter and move even more, even if your mouse isn't moving. It's goofy. I know I nitpick a lot in these videos, but I think controls are something that should be nitpicked. That needs to be nailed. Remember how I said that was the last thing I wanted to talk about before moving on to night 2? Well, I lied. There's actually 2 more things I want to mention. First, I forgot to say the music box is still a thing. And I'm not gonna harp on it too much. You guys know how I feel about music boxes. AIDS, poop, and balls. There. The other thing I want to mention is what happens after you beat night 1. You'll get tossed back into the POV of Gabriel standing on stage as Bonnie and Chica perform around you. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Eventually, they stop performing and just stare at you, which is very uncomfortable, especially Chica. Chica's model in this game is like really fucking gross and uncomfortable to look at, so I didn't like that too much. It looks like she doesn't brush her teeth for a living. Eventually, the puppet appears in front of us, the curtains close, and we're booted into night 2. Night 2 starts by allowing you to walk around the building yet again. However, this time we're actually allowed to go inside the arcade room. And of course, if you couldn't take a guess, there is an arcade machine that we're able to play. In this minigame, we play as a fucking drill car, which is pretty riz. We have to drive around and pop several balloons across the map. After we're done, an exit door will appear and we can end the minigame. However, if you know anything about FNAF minigames, then you'd know there has to be a secret in here somewhere. And a secret there is. After collecting all the balloons, if instead of going into the exit door you continue, you'll find a glitched wall. Driving into it will put you into a normal car. After a bit of driving, we stumble across one of the pizzerias with a crying child outside. Getting out of the car, you'll notice we're playing as Afton. We walk up to the child and presumably murder it, only for the puppet to appear in the reflection of the game, telling us that if we go deeper, it will stop us. Whatever that means. With that, another exit door appears and we're free to leave and continue the night as usual. After that, there's nothing more to do than walk into the office and talk about what new threats this night introduces. And the first threat we'll talk about is Withered Foxy. Nothing much interesting to say about this guy. He works in the exact same way as the original. He'll appear in your hallway every now and then, and all you have to do is flash him a bunch and he'll go away. One thing I do want to mention about him and why I actually like him in this game more than the original is because you flash him with your mouse, which means my poor little control key won't fucking explode. And actually, because you have to use your mouse to flash Foxy, you can actually spam the hallway a lot faster and make him leave sooner. So that's pretty great. The other threat introduced on this night is Mangle, who is probably the most interesting character we've seen so far and is probably the most interesting character in the entire game. Mangle's goal is to get into your office through the main hallway. She doesn't enter the right vent like in the original. Mangle is a very stressful character to deal with. Let me explain why. Once Mangle enters your office, she'll go to your ceiling, but this does not mean she's attacking you yet. While she's on your ceiling, very loud gurgling sounds will be heard, and the TV monitors in your office will start flashing static, Mangle, and the puppet, interestingly enough. After a bit of this, Mangle will drop her head down from the ceiling. At this time, you must put your mask on. Mangle will stay with her head down for a very long time, like much longer than you think she would. Eventually, she'll pull her head back up, but the attack isn't over quite yet. The screens will start to go all nutty again, and during this time, you're allowed to check on things you need to check on, like the music box, Toy Freddy, and Withered Foxy. Soon after, Mangle will drop her head down a second time, requiring you to put the mask on again. After she leaves for the second time, she will finally leave your office, and her attack is finally over. Mangle is easily one of, if not the most stressful character to deal with in this entire game. And one of the main reasons I feel this way is because of her synergy with Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy makes a laughing sound cue when he's about to fuck you with your fuse box. Mangle is so goddamn cock-sucking loud that she will most likely drown out his laugh unless you're paying incredibly close attention.
So I'm not gonna die just because she's in here. That was Toy Freddy. She synergizes with Toy Freddy. She's loud as shit and drowns him out.
But overall, if you can learn her timings, you should be just fine. And in all honesty, from what I noticed, she is pretty forgiving with how much time she gives you to put the mask on after she drops her head. Night 3 time already? Why hello. What goes on tonight? Well, the night starts just like night 2. We can take a walk through the arcade and play another game, except this time around the game in question is fucking dog shit and I didn't beat it because it's bullshit. In it, you play as Bonnie collecting balloons. Who cares about that part? At a certain distance into the sky, you'll see the ceiling is glitching. Jumping into it will turn you into Spring Bonnie and the game gets all dark. Ooh, scary. In this section of the game, you need to grab the 5 kids and put them into what I'm going to assume is the back room where they were killed. You have to do it one at a time, which really just makes my dick hurt, but whatever. Every time you collect a child, shadow Bonnies will appear around the map for you to dodge. If you touch them, the floor will disappear and you'll have to climb back up. After you collect 4 kids, however, is when this game gets bullshit. Another shadow Bonnie will spawn. However, this one looks way fucking creepier and will actually follow you. The funny part? Well, this shadow Bonnie is faster than you in every way and will literally camp your body, making it borderline impossible to make any progress. Seriously, look at what's happening on screen right now and tell me if this looks like any fun at all. Spoiler alert, it's not. I gave up because I was on the verge of sticking a pencil down my urethra and snapping it in half. However, Once you deliver the last kid, an exit door will appear, finishing out the minigame. Afterwards, all you have to do is walk to the office and the night section can begin. Phone Guy talks about how the police may have a lead on a missing children's incident. Who cares? I'm glad they're dead. And he also mentions that the animatronics are getting more aggressive. That part I do care about. So let's talk about the 2 new threats this night introduces. Withered Bonnie is introduced on this night, and he's one of the coolest characters in the entire game. Not because of what he actually does, he's just a super menacing character, and I think that's really cool. Withered Bonnie will attack you through the hall rather than the vent like in the original. The animation is insane, get ready for this. When he's in your hall, he will step out in front of your doorway and stare at you. This is easily one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. Then after a bit of time, he'll step into your office, and all you have to do is put the mask on until he goes away. Fucking terrifying. I love it. The other character introduced on this night is my favorite official FNAF animatronic ever designed, Withered Chica. She does, literally, the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie, which I do feel is a little lazy. However, she's so fucking cool and easily the creepiest character in this entire game. Seriously, look at this animation when she's in your office and tell me that's not the creepiest thing you've ever seen. God, I love it so much. But those are the only 2 characters introduced on this night. So far, I do think Night 3 is the most boring in terms of what happens. Yes, Mangle is still stressful with Toy Freddy, and I did get the craziest attack combo of all fucking time.
You didn't see me.
Oh my god. Bitches at every angle! I'm getting railed from every angle. What is this? Hi!
You are the most terrifying character in this fucking game. Holy shit. That's badass, dude. Oh my god, and look who's still fucking here.
But in terms of what Night 3 actually brings to the table, I do feel it is a bit lackluster. I know that Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica do the same thing, but at least in a game like FNAF 2 Reimagined, while Bonnie and Chica variants did do the same thing, at least the Withereds and the toys attacked differently from each other. The only thing that's different between the variants this time around is where they come from to get into your office. Night 4. Fuck this. Terrible character introduction. Let's just jump right into it. To begin, of course, we walk through the arcade and play yet another minigame. That is, unless you're me. Since I didn't complete the bullshit minigame from Night 3, I couldn't play the minigame on Night 4. Had I known that was going to be the case, I would have forced myself to beat Night 3's minigame. But fuck me, I guess I'm locked out of all the minigames for the rest of my playthrough. But what actually happens in this minigame? Well, I'm honestly glad I never did play this minigame because it appears to be just as frustrating as the last. In it, you play as who I think is Mangle. You're tasked with finding 5 balloon boys around the map. Afterwards, you move on to the next round and holy shit! It says there's 20 fucking rounds. I think I'm gonna shoot myself. Luckily for us, actually collecting the balloon boys isn't the real objective. Occasionally, a crying child will appear from the ground, and these are the real characters you want to collect. After collecting your first one, a Shadow Bonnie will appear on the map. Touching one will cause the timer at the top of the screen to decrease very quickly, so don't touch them. However, it appears that a crying child spawning only has a small chance to happen every time the map loads, so using them to lose faster to get the level to respawn might actually be an alright strategy for collecting all the kids. Eventually, after collecting a few, as I'm sure you could have already guessed, Spring Dick appears and moves at light speed and camps your body for the rest of the fucking minigame, constantly draining your time at a rate faster than your mom drains all the nutrients out of the buffet line. Once you finally collect all of the crying children, the next level will show all the heads of the characters with missing children stuffed inside of them, and an exit door will appear. Something I noticed specifically about the Golden Freddy head is just how hard it is to see in comparison to the other masks. I'm sure this has some sort of symbolism, but I'm just playing the game, bro. You figure it out. Anyways, after touching the exit door, you walk to the office and it's time for the night section to begin. This night introduces 2 new threats. Let's start with the threat that is so annoying you'll want to light your PC on fire and then throw it in a river. Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy has somehow been made even more annoying than in the original. Except not annoying as in his mechanics, that's actually easier than the original. I mean, his laugh is so much fucking worse. The way he works is pretty simple. He'll attack through either of your vents. Instead of putting the mask on like in the original, you'll instead have to spam flash your light at him. Do that enough and he'll eventually literally run away like a little baby pissed diarrhea boy. Obviously, if you don't, he jumps into your office, steals your shit, and Foxy will fuck you since you won't be able to flash him. The other character introduced on this night is Withered Freddy. What does he do? Well, let me tell you, I have no fucking idea. What do you mean you have no idea, Dxtr? Didn't you play the game? Yes, I did. However, this series and this Dxtr White video specifically, I wanted to try something a little different in the video creation process. Typically, after I finish recording a black series, if I think the game was worthy of a white video, I'll put it on my white list. Depending on how much I either liked or disliked the game, will determine how high up on the list the game will go. And when it comes time to script a Dxtr White video, I choose the video at the top of the list and write the entire script in one sitting. I feel this leads to the beginnings of my scripts being really hard to get into, and I feel that it also makes the amount of energy I have near the end of the script drop off. So I thought for this game I'd try something new. After recording each Dxtr Black video on this game, I would write the script specifically for that section. That way, I'm not writing a lot in one sitting, and I get a fresh reset every day, which I've noticed has been making me a lot happier with the script in general. However, this does bring up an interesting issue that I've only noticed now while writing and talking about Night 4. While yes, Withered Freddy was introduced, for some reason, he literally never attacked me once throughout the entire night. So I quite literally have no idea what he does, and I can't really talk about it. So, this is a little awkward. I'm gonna consult the wiki real quick. Just give me a second. Let me just, 87, okay, and Night 4. Okay, here we go. We'll go to the hallway. Well, fuck. I really thought he was gonna do something cool, but no. He does the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Just walks to your hall and eventually goes into your office where you have to put the mask on. Damn it, I really thought they'd do something interesting with this guy, and it's honestly really disappointing that they didn't. I had Withered Freddy appear in my hall multiple times throughout my Night 4 playthrough. However, never once did he attempt to step into my office. If I had to guess why, I'd say it's probably because when he was in the hallway, every other character at the same time decided to be there or be in my office. Oh my god, fucking party in the hallway! Party in the hallway! Let's just fucking not do this. Party in the fucking office! Hello everybody at the same fucking time. Hi guys, fuck off. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're at Night 5 already? What a nice, totally calm and non-stressful ride it's been so far, right? Yeah, no, not really, but let's continue. To start, of course, we have another minigame to talk about, and this one is by far the most frustrating and annoying one yet. In it, we play as the puppet, tasked with giving gifts and then giving life, just like the original. However, unlike the original, where the minigame was quick and easy, this minigame is long and painful. You can see several balloons going from side to side across the screen. You can move along the top of the screen as well, and you're supposed to drop down on the crying children to give them their gift. However, you can't touch the balloons or the balloon boys at the bottom of the screen, or you will be reset to the top. Can you see where this is going? This minigame relies on luck, and you just fucking waiting for a good opening to drop down. And get this, as it goes on, it gets even worse. Every time you get a gift, a Shadow Bonnie will appear in the balloons. These Shadow Bonnies will move around and literally push the fucking balloons when they touch them, making the waiting for timings part even more fucking annoying. And you have plenty of them in this game. This game can take several minutes depending on your luck. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it took someone over 15 minutes to complete this bullshit. After giving the gift to the last kid, the screen goes dark and we're told to give life, putting the character masks on each of the children, with the puppet eerily watching in the background. After giving life, the puppet goes on a 2-decade rant. She gets upset that we keep playing these games, learning what happened to the children, even at its attempts to stop us. She says she has to kill us because apparently us knowing will make them truly die. She says this because obviously she gave them life in the forms of the animatronics. But I'd argue to say that this is a fate even worse than death. Miss fucking Puppet. And I'm willing to bet that freeing the kids and letting them actually die is miles better than having them live in the place where they fucking died for the rest of eternity. So hop off my dick. Before we jump into the next section, there's something I want to mention that I found while roaming around this night. Well, actually 3 things. The first is just how many fucking puppet plushies have been accumulating around the building. Like, there are literally so many of them. The next thing I want to mention is that it was this night that I found you can knock Balloon Boy over, which has probably now become my favorite part of this game. Oh my god, I can knock his stupid ass over. And finally, the real big thing I wanted to talk about is something I found in one of the party rooms. Please, can someone tell me, what the fuck is this thing? There's an endoskeleton you can find in one of the party rooms. I don't know if it's here every night or just this one since I never checked, but tell me, who the fuck is this supposed to be? It never moves and you can't interact with it, but I just thought I'd point this out in case anybody can tell me what the hell this thing is. Anyways, how about we talk about the actual night section now? There's not much to talk about in terms of new threats, but there is something pretty interesting. At the end of the puppet's monologue, she said that tonight would be different than the nights before. She said that we've done a good job stopping her, but not tonight. The puppet gains a new form of attack on this night, and it is so fucking annoying. Remember all those shadow bonnies that are life-ruining from the minigames? Yeah? Well, now they're in the night segments. Have fun, asshole! They show up on your cameras. Several of them. Like, a fuck ton of them will appear. They will block your camera buttons, your flashlight button, and your music box wind button. When you click on one of them, they will go away. But if there's even one of them just barely touching the button with their head, their foot, their hand, even just gently plopping the tip of their dick right on top of one of your buttons, you won't be able to interact with it until you get rid of them. And you better believe that when you hear Toy Freddy's fat ass laugh, your blood pressure is gonna spike to 12K as you try to remove all these little fucking shadow bitches from the camera.
Oh my god.
But that really is the only new thing added to this night. Of course, this night is much harder than night 4, and yes, it's still just as overwhelming with characters constantly jumping all over your shit and grinding in your office constantly throughout the entire night. Thank you for asking. Night 6 time! Holy fucking shit, is there a lot to talk about here. I was honestly expecting this video to be close to 20 minutes, but nope. We're going way over today. So, it was at this moment I learned that in order to play Night 6, I had to beat all the minigames from the previous nights. Fuck me. So, I did that, and now here we are. This night begins with a cutscene, talking about what I can only assume to be the bite of 87. Or the bite of 83? I think this one is 83, I'm pretty sure. I literally don't know the FNAF lore at all, it's so fucking awful. In this cutscene, we play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, going into a play area to retrieve a Freddy plushie. Of course, this play area is where Mangle is kept, and it's at this moment we notice that Mangle has the toy in her mouth. Attempting to go get it, she crawls away into the slide. Following behind her, she goes down the slide and we lose sight of her, only to see that she's placed the toy in a very convenient spot.
Ooh, convenient.
Going to grab the toy, Mangle swoops down on us like a pedophile in the park and bites the shit out of us, killing us instantly. Jeremy is then fished up by Old Man Consequences. He explains how people who have died unfairly don't get reeled up to the surface and are forced to stay underneath the ocean until they get peace. Even though we as Jeremy died unfairly, he explains that he made an exception for us because we died due to the supernatural. He also knows that we haven't finished what we started. This conversation with him goes on for a very long time, so let's just skip to the interesting part. We come back to the building. Of course, we're playing as Michael, not Jeremy. Just wanted to make that clear in case anyone was confused as to what was going on. We are indeed Michael Afton in this game. We enter through the back of the building through a vent and go to walk back to the office. However, before we do that, I want to point out that for some reason, Toy Freddy is not on stage and is instead standing in the same party room we saw that weird endoskeleton in previously. Oh, and of course, there's yet another minigame to play. Heading into the arcade, we can begin. This time we play as Chica and we have to bring a bunch of cupcakes to a table. You'll notice that this time around, there is a lack of Shadow Bonnies. That is, until you collect all the cupcakes. If you head up afterwards, you'll see the stick figure Jeremy pointing you towards a wall. Walking into it, we get teleported to a room with several platforms. It's in this room where the big bitch Shadow Bonnie is present. If he touches you, you get teleported back to the cupcake table and will have to come back. In this big platform room, there are characters from every other minigame you've seen so far, retrieving one of the missing children from each, giving them gifts, and then finally giving them life once more. The puppet tells us we need to stay out of its way, and an exit door appears for us to leave. Candy Cadet thought it'd be a great idea to block my fucking path to the office. He speaks to us, but it almost seems as though the puppet is speaking to us through him, given exactly what he says to us.
Congratulations, Michael.
Oh, hey, Candy.
You won a free story. No coins required.
Oh, you know my name. Hey, Candy Cadet.
Michael, you should have never come back.
Oh.
I told you to leave us alone.
Oh, is that the fucking marionette?
I'm happy. We are all happy. Do not try to take them away.
You're not all
Jeremy
happy.
tried. You do not want to be like Jeremy. Right, Michael?
Oh yeah, Jeremy got bit.
If you answer that phone, if you listen to Jeremy, I will have to stop you. I know there is good in you. I know you are sorry. Please leave.
Oh, okay. You can't stop me, bro.
After this, we find a different way to the office, and the night begins. Nothing new to talk about here, it's just a harder version of Night 5. That is, until we see a certain shadow rabbit in our cameras and the building goes dark. The lights come back on, and the phone begins to ring. Every camera has too many balloons on it, and our Freddy mask has been replaced by a foxy one. There's no better way for me to explain to you what happens next. It's much better if you just watch for yourself.
Michael, I know you're here. Know what you've done, Michael. Brother is dead, Michael. You killed him. What were you even doing? You really think it's that much? Like the one sick with nothing holding it up. My son is dead, Michael. People hate you. And those who don't pity me are blaming me. Have to go to the high priest. The little face of my restaurant. So many are going to think I failed. They'll think something's broken or wrong with my work. His machine killed me. Did he not prioritize safety? I'm sorry! I didn't account for my idiot son shoving his little brother down its mouth! I have to my parents. I need people to know this was your horseplay that caused this. There was no fault of mine. You are almost an adult. You deserve to take full accountability for this. All of it. You know, I'll never let go of this, Michael. You've ruined my life. I'm going to tear yours apart.
So, Michael has an episode, and Mangle is able to slip into the office and attack him. But hold up. What if I told you Mangle didn't get him? Michael comes to. He survived by jumping into one of the vents. Now it's time for us to make our grand escape. We crawl through the vents into the kitchen where we see Withered Chica. Fucking terrifying, by the way. Sneaking around her, we enter the hallway and a chase with Withered Freddy begins, Withered Bonnie following close behind as well. We run through the back room, interestingly seeing that weird endoskeleton from before, but we don't really have time to focus on that. We close the door to the back room, but it's not long before Withered Foxy starts to chase us as well. Getting into the main party room, a sign falls and blocks Foxy from being able to get us. We try to run to the exit, only for two balloon boys to block the way. Before we can think of what to do, the puppet jumps out of her box and yet another chase occurs. Choosing to run to the emergency exit, Toy Freddy blocks our path. Running back into the main hallways, Toy Bonnie and Chica spot us and the chase continues. Running down the hall, Mangle falls from the ceiling as we make a sharp left into the arcade room. Exiting, Toy Freddy greets us on the other side and we make it to the exit. Fenced off, we seemingly have nowhere to go. Hearing the puppet pounding on the door behind us, we jump behind some pizza boxes to hide. As the puppet breaks her way outside, the sound of police sirens can be heard as the puppet cowers and hides before she can be seen. We look down at the logbook we took, previously owned by Jeremy, and Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87 comes to a close. While yes, this is where the main story ends, there's still something super interesting I want to talk about, and that is this game's extras menu, which actually isn't even a menu. It's basically just a 3D environment you can roam around and explore. The reason I want to talk about it, well, you can re-enter the pizzeria to explore, and around it you can find several Faz tokens. Using these tokens, you can go to the arcade room and have Candy Cadet tell you a story. The story he tells consists of an infamous cave in the woods that everybody is afraid to enter. One day, a child stumbles upon it, and a beast convinces him to go inside the cave with him. The child never exits the cave. Several children entered the cave and never returned. A sorcerer found the cave with the children and banished the beast from inside, locking all the children in the cave with a seal, keeping them safe inside from the beast that trapped them there. The children had the desire to leave, but the sorcerer couldn't let them without breaking the seal and letting the beast back inside. If it wasn't obvious, this story is obviously a metaphor for the missing children's incident. The cave is Freddy's, the beast is William, and the sorcerer is the puppet. This little extra thing you can do with Candy Cadet is honestly super fun, and I think it's such a unique thing to add to an extras menu. Finding these tokens and discovering this story is such a fun experience, and you can see me do it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But with that, as far as I'm aware, that is all FNAF Rewritten 87 has to offer. Popular pre-existing IPs in FNAF games. I'm sure quite a few examples already come to your mind when I say that. Five Nights at Wario's, Five Nights at Sonic's, Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, among many others are very popular examples of this. However, in my journey of playing FNAF games to find games worthy enough to talk about, there's one very popular IP I see show up very frequently. An IP that has so many games made by multiple different talented individuals, and the person who made the game we'll be talking about today needs no introduction. Today, we're going to be talking about a FNAF game about Teletubbies. You might think that's weird since I just talked about the Tubbyland Archives Act 1 a few weeks ago, but this is a perfect example of just how many FNAF fan games have been built around this IP. Today, we'll be covering The Remnants of Tubbyland, a FNAF fan game made by Avocado Dreams, the same person responsible for one of the most terrifying FNAF games ever designed, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. Rest assured, this game is terrifying as well, and not only that, it's also really hard. So let's waste no more time and jump right into The Remnants of Tubbyland. To begin, we have to talk about the setting in which this game takes place. Typically in FNAF games, we see the setting as a restaurant, with animatronics that were on stage and would sing in the party room while the children ate their food. But not this time around. The Remnants of Tubbyland takes place in a daycare that's been seemingly left to rot. We take the job as a night guard, and before we know it, we're thrown into a twisted death trap. But hold up, boys. Before we continue, I want to talk about the plushie for a moment. For those of you that didn't know, I'm partnering with Makeshift to attempt to get this little demon man plushie made in real life. We currently have a petition going on gathering pledges from people like you. We only have a few days left before the petition comes to an end. As of recording this, we are just over halfway there, and I need your help to get the final push. Here's the concept art we're using to show what the plushie could look like. We even did it in the FNAF style since, you know, that's kind of what we do around here. And you know what? Let's make a 3D model of this little guy so we can see what he'd look like more realistically. Boom! Look at that. Isn't that thing adorable? Imagine having that in your hands, squeezing it until it pops. If you're interested in helping out and you want to get this plushie made in real life, then go to the top link in my description and pledge $2 today to show our interest. Sorry for interrupting. Let's get back to the video. Loading into the office for the first time, there's already a lot to talk about. Please don't be as hard as the fucking other. What the fuck am I looking at? Let's start by mentioning how fucking creepy this game looks. Obviously, we've got this little fella sitting in front of us, and of course, he will become more important later on. But seriously, just look at the scenery in this game. I honestly think it's creepier than Graveyard Shift. Everything just looks so grainy, uncanny, and gross. It seems like a really nasty place to have to spend your time, and yet here we are spending our time here. We get our night one phone call, and it's just about as basic as you could imagine. The typical night one phone call stuff. The phone guy introduces where we are, why we're watching over the place, and pretends like there's nothing to be worried about, because the murder robots would never murder us.
So if they enter your room, they could knock stuff over and probably damage themselves more than they already have.
Just say they can blow my shit out. The reason we're given as to why we're here is pretty unclear. However, we're told that our main objective is just to watch the robots since they are capable of moving around. At least they can acknowledge that this is something that is happening. Of course, he says they won't hurt us, but also decides it's a great idea to explain to us how to defend ourselves on the off chance they come into our office. He explains their facial recognition and says that if they move around too much, they may damage themselves. So I guess we've got some suicidal robots around here. Fantastic. Anyways, how many threats are introduced on night one? 2. 2 threats are introduced on night 1, so let's go over them. Let's start with this game's main attraction, Dipsy. So I don't see nobody yet. Bro, let me tell you, Avocado Dreams, she knows how to set an atmosphere. What the fuck is that? Dude, Dipsy Dick will begin on camera 2. If we take a look at the map, we can see the path that the characters will have to take to reach us. It's a little bit confusing, so really take a look at it. As you can see, camera 2 is not actually connected to our office at all. This entire building is just one big spiral to reach our office. So Dipsy Dick will have to start from camera 2, then go to 3, 4, 5, and to finally end up in camera 7 before he can attack us. Make sense? Good. Dipsy makes no noise when moving around, so you'll have to track him yourself on the cameras. Once he reaches camera 7, he actually has 2 phases. One far away from the camera, and another where he's a lot closer to the camera. And even despite the fact that this is a robot, somehow his face is able to distort to an unrealistic length. Don't question it. Ooh, spooky. That's all that matters. Like, an entire half of the building has no cameras in it. That's so ugly. That's so ugly. Once Dipsy makes it to the second phase on camera 7, his next movement opportunity will have him disappear. When he does, that's how you know he's about to attack you. Since Dipsy will never move backwards, it's always easy to keep track of him. Once he does disappear, you'll have to put on the sun mask located on your desk. It works exactly the same as the mask from FNAF 2, and of course, Avocado Dreams did not disappoint with the animations. Take a look. Oh my god, dude, that'd be so sick! Damn, bro. That is so cool. That's so cool, bro.
I can't lie to you, but now this shit cool as fuck. This shit cool as fuck.
Just creepy as fuck, isn't it? God, I love it. It's so cool. Anyways, something else about your mask that you've probably noticed is this asthma meter. This is basically just the scrapped toxic meter from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The longer your mask is on, the higher your asthma meter will increase. And if it increases all the way, the mask will forcefully be taken off, and you'll have to wait for a cooldown before you can put it on again. And that's obviously not a good thing, especially not on later nights. Now, for the second threat this night introduces, Trumpet. Trumpet acts as more of a nuisance character rather than an actual threat in this game. However, don't let that make you think you can ignore him, because you most certainly cannot. Occasionally, you'll be able to see Trump Dick rising up from behind your desk. It does make a noise, but on later nights, you may find it hard to hear it while you're on the cameras, so you should get into the habit of checking often. When Trumpet starts to rise, you will have to quickly find his error message that randomly spawns on one of your cameras. My least favorite FNAF mechanic hidden into a character that technically doesn't enter the camera themselves. I'm onto you, game. Watch your back. When you find the error, simply press the power button and Trumpet will fall back behind your desk. But what happens if you just let Trumpet fully appear and start blasting your eardrums with the loudest sound you've ever heard in your entire life? Well, the sound that emits from it will slowly cause the AI value of every other character to slowly increase until Trumpet is turned off. And even after you turn Trumpet off, you want to hear something crazy? The AI values will never go back down throughout the night. So let me tell you, you do not want to miss a trumpet attack. You will very quickly regret it. Old trumpet dick. Night 2 introduces probably the most revolting, nasty, fuck-ass character I've ever seen in my life on this earth. Luckily, it's not nearly as bad as one of Avocado Dream's other demon spawns, Sheriff Slitherdick, but trust me, this character... Luckily, it's not nearly as bad as one of Avocado Dream's other demon spawns, Sheriff Slitherdick, but trust me, this character will still make you want to cover your willy with honey and jump wiener first into a fire anthill. That character, of course, is Poe. Poe is a very simple character to understand. However, that's probably the scariest part about her. Poe starts on camera 1. She will then move to camera 3. From 3, she will either move to camera 2 or camera 4. You want her to move to camera 4. Trust me, it's better for your mental health overall. She will then move between cameras 6, 4, 5, and 3 for the rest of the night. She will never naturally wander to your office, but don't let that make you think you're safe. You're not safe. You're never safe. This is easily the worst character in the entire game. While Poop is on the cameras, if you're looking at the camera she's on, you'll be able to hear the song she emits as she wanders around. You'll have to track her around the cameras to constantly make sure the song is playing. If the song ever stops, you're in trouble. On night 2, a large red button will appear on your desk. If the music stops, all you have to do is push this button and her music will reset. But you have to be really fast. If her music is off, that's when she'll make her way to your office. If you at any point see her in camera 7, you need to hit the button immediately. Faster than you've ever hit anything else before in your entire life. Faster than a 1950s husband hits his wife after coming home and not having a martini in his hand the moment he walks through the door. If you don't, obviously... if you don't... if you don't, obviously she's... Damn it. If you don't, obviously she's gonna bounce into your office and start bouncing on it crazy style. Riding it like a bike with no seat type shit.
Oh, but he's fast. It is me or did Poe get really fast? Oh, shit. Oh my god, my ass just fell off. Fuck.
And before you say anything, look at this ugly fuck. You don't want that. The problem that Poe brings into this game is obviously requiring your constant attention. And Dipsy has already been shown to require a lot of your attention as well. And trust me, the synergy that Poe has with every other character that will be introduced into this game is prominent and brutal the entire way through. So let's continue talking about them, shall we? Night 3 brings on this fuckhead in your office, Tinky Winky.
So I really like that. I don't like this fucker staring at me right now. I can't lie. That I'm not a huge fan of, the way he's looking at me. He's like licking his lips and shit. And it's like, let's not. Okay.
Ooh. Tinky Dick works in the exact same way as Peggy from Showman's The Awakening, which I've covered on this channel before, and you should go watch that video after you finish this one. Tinky Dick is very much a weeping angel character. If you're looking at him, he won't move. But if you have your camera up, he will slowly begin to creep towards you throughout 3 different phases. Each phase is pretty obvious, so don't worry about not noticing it. After the final phase, he will attempt to jump you like you're in the streets of Compton. All you have to do is put your mask on and he'll go back to where he was. However, unlike Dipsy, Tinky requires you to be a lot faster with your mask, and you can't put on your mask before an attack to bait the attack out. Tinky has to attack before putting the mask on will push him backwards. Thankfully, if you're on your cameras, he will force them down when he attacks. So it isn't just a guessing game, but you have to be really, really fast. Especially on later nights. You'll have close to only 1 second to put it on once he attacks, lest your butt cheeks get spread and he lathers peanut butter and jelly on that shit like a midnight snack.
Oh, okay. It's blatantly obvious.
Huh, bitch?
Was I just not fast enough? Do you have to be like really, really quick with it?
Obviously, Tinky brings up an enormous problem. With 2 characters requiring you to constantly watch them on the cameras, Adding a character that penalizes you for using the cameras is obviously going to cause quite a bit of problems. This is actually the problem that led to me having to change the way I play the game and switch up my strategy to solely focusing on Poe and occasionally checking on camera 7 to see if Dipsy has arrived yet. It's also this character that made me decide to start forcing attacks from him. For example, let's say Dipsy just attacked me. I know it's going to be a while before Dipsy can come to attack me again. So in order to not have the asthma meter blow up my guts, I would sit and stare at the cameras until Tinky attacked me, resetting his timer before the next Dipsy attack. It's a very AIDS strategy that makes me die a little bit on the inside, but it does get the job done well enough. Well, now it's time to move on to night 4 and introduce a character so sepsis-ridden you'd think you've injected yourself with every disease on Earth. Lala. Lala starts in camera 1 like poop. She has a set path around the map to get to your office, very similar to Dipsy. On this night, you'll notice that each camera Lala will travel through will now be equipped with a camera button, allowing you to take a picture of each camera and obviously emitting a flash of light at the same time. I'm sure you can tell exactly where this is going. Lala will move throughout the cameras during this night. You will have to flash her on whatever camera she's on to push her back. Then go to the camera you pushed her to and flash her again. Keep doing this until you push her back into camera 1. When she goes back into camera 1, she will shut down and won't attack again for a while, so doing this is very important. And if you're lucky, you can catch her really quickly and only have to push her back once. The problem with her? She is very, very fast. She will move through her cameras faster than the fat bitch in line at the Golden Corral who's hopping up and down because the buffet just got refilled. Sit down, Shamu.
There are so many things that I don't understand. I don't know what's going on right now. Oh. You're telling me she got all the way through the cameras that fast? You're telling me she got through every camera that fast? No. No, this is bullshit. Let me tell you what this is. This is bullshit, bro. Like, what the fuck is that? What is that? How the fuck am I supposed to keep track of those 3 fuckers at the same time while also not looking at the cameras for this fucker? I'll tell you how, you don't. That's bullshit. What the fuck? We now have an interesting group of mechanics to talk about. Thankfully, even though this game does rely a lot on RNG, there was a very clear attempt put in place by Avocado Dreams to mitigate how much RNG is actually involved. The main example I can point to is Tinky Winky. Tinky Winky will never attack you if Lala has left camera 1. This prevents an insta-loss that would otherwise be present. Obviously, if Tinky Dick is about to attack and you get an attack from Lala, if you were to deal with Lala, then Tinky would attack you, and while being attacked, Lala would easily make it to your office and kill you. So thank God Tinky isn't able to attack you while Lala is. However, his aggression meter will still increase, meaning that immediately after you deal with Lala, it's very likely you will get an insta attack from Tinky. So you'll need to be fast, but at least there isn't any luck involved. Night 5 introduces nothing new, and is just a much harder version of Night 4. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you guys. I was not able to beat Night 5. I'm sure that if I threw in hours upon hours of attempts, I would have beaten it eventually, but I just don't have the type of patience like other people do. I applaud you if you beat it, but I did not. But now we get to talk about what everyone who's familiar with this game has been waiting for: Custom Night, and the secret night that comes along with it. If you go into Custom Night, you may notice that there is an extra character slot just labeled NA. You'll also notice that you're unable to set its AI value. If you input the code 34193 into the other characters and press start, you will be entered into the secret boss night this game has to offer: Dream Night. Dream Night introduces 2 new threats, while disabling all other threats we've seen so far. These 2 new characters are Nunu and Evocation. Let's start with Evocation since he was easily the character that confused me the most. Evocation will begin on camera 2, slowly emerging from a screen. After he leaves that camera, he will randomly teleport to any other camera except camera 1. You'll have to quickly find him and keep your eyes on him. From there, he can attack you in one of 2 ways. The first way will have him get super close to the camera and laugh like a child, which just fills me with rage because I hate children. When he does, all you have to do is flash whichever camera he went to. His other attack has him disappear from the camera entirely. If he does, he will immediately teleport inside of your office and float above you like he's possessed by the devil. If this is the attack he chooses, all you have to do is put your mask on and he will leave instantly. You do have to be pretty fast with both attacks, so make sure you have your reflex game on point. Another thing to point out about the way Evocation attacks is that he will never attack the same way twice. So, his first attack will be random, but from there it will be incredibly easy to predict how he will attack since he'll just be alternating between the two, which honestly serves to make this boss fight easier. Anyways, on to the only other threat present in Dream Night, Nunu, the vacuum, or if you have bad teeth and your country's food tastes like shit, a Hoover. Nunu is very simple, really just being a distraction character. He will randomly wander around cameras 4, 5, and 6. Occasionally, you may hear a loud metal bang. That means Nunu is just being a pesky little guy. Find which camera he's on, which should be pretty easy since his eyes will be flashing and he'll be emitting a nasty noise. Simply flash the camera he's on and bada bing bada boom, he's dealt with. Upon beating Dream Night, you will unlock that special character in the custom night screen. Spoiler alert, it's fucking Evocation. You might be wondering where Nunu is. Well, Nunu is actually a part of Evocation. So if you activate Evocation, Nunu will be activated alongside him as well, which I honestly think is really cool. As far as the story of this game goes, Avocado Dreams kept it pretty simple. After completing Night 5, we get this news article along with our paycheck. Infamous Tubbyland Daycare finally sees its end after a 15-year long battle to sell the property. Following a tragic accident back in 2000, the childcare facility promptly closed its doors and left the building dormant, alone, and forgotten. Years having flown by, locals urged city officials to accelerate the auction process due to rumors that have been circulating the desolate daycare. The property is planned to be utilized for a brand new facility using the same philosophies and presentation ideas, but aiming for a new and safer direction. So it's very clear that something terrible happened in 2000. So what could that possibly be referring to? According to the wiki, back in 2000, Nunu fucking exploded inside of the daycare, starting a massive fire. Our player, Parker Anderson, was in the building at the time with his son, Lucas. Lucas most likely being the identity of Evocation, which would also make sense as to why Nunu is activated alongside of him and why a child will laugh when he gets close to the camera. When the fire erupted, Parker left the building and saved himself, leaving his son behind to be burned alive. Years later, as the building is going to be demolished after being sold, Parker takes up the night shift job. He's unable to move on. Filled with guilt, he's not capable of forgetting what he did. Of course, Lucas's soul lingers inside the daycare, still angry, unforgiving of what his father did to him. So in Dream Night, he lashes out to attack. There's honestly not a whole lot of info on this game's lore. That is quite literally all I was able to gather from it. If there's anything I'm missing or something new comes up after this video goes live, please let me know in the comments below, as I definitely feel like there's a bit more to this. But as far as I'm aware, that's all the remnants of Tubbyland has to offer.
Recently, I've been covering a lot of very well-known fan games on this channel. Five Nights at Candy's, Pop Goes, and Animatronic Memories are probably names you're all familiar with. Recently, I've been looking for a FNAF game to cover that I personally had never heard of, and today I've definitely found one. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's super weird, but however, it does have its charm and an amazing story. So, let's waste no time and hop right into Tales of the Bunnyman. Tales of the Bunnyman opens with a cutscene that reminds me a lot of the old official Five Nights at Freddy's trailers, specifically Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We get several shots of the pizzeria interlaced with pieces of dialogue explaining the exposition of the story. We play as a man named Vincent Baldwin, who we later learn used to be a night guard and is one of the missing children's fathers, the father of Cassidy. We're entering the building to do some investigating and find out where our missing child went. And with our motive in mind, we're safe to head into Night 1 and start talking about what this game really has to offer. Night 1 introduces two characters, but before I start talking about them, I want to talk about the office itself. In our office, the first thing I want to get out of the way is this picture.
I don't know who this is. I checked the wiki and couldn't figure out who this is. That's it. I just don't know who this is. Anyways, on to something actually important. The coolest thing I noticed about this office is that there are actually 2 rooms that we can move between. The typical office room and the boiler room. I'll talk more about the boiler room later when it becomes important. The door to the boiler room can be held shut, as animatronics will actually have to travel through it in order to get to your office. The only other things in our office is our camera system and a giant gift box. We can hide inside of this gift box to be able to protect ourselves from the first major threat of this night, Foxy. Foxy behaves pretty much exactly the same as in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. He starts on Pirate's Cove and makes his way through some phases before attacking. However, something unique about Foxy is he actually has 2 completely different attacks he can perform, each of which requires you to do something completely different to counteract him. The first attack he has is pretty simple. After he leaves Pirate's Cove, he will charge towards your office. When he does, you'll have to quickly jump inside the present until you hear him run away, after which you can jump back out and continue. His other attack is unfortunately a mechanic I've grown to dislike more and more as I play FNAF games. After leaving Pirate's Cove, Foxy has a chance to appear randomly on one of your cameras. When he does, all you have to do is find him and stare at him until he goes back to Pirate's Cove. This is mainly a me thing, but I've personally grown tired of the find them on the cameras mechanic. Yes, I do play Five Nights at Freddy's for a living, so yes, I'm going to see repeated mechanics a lot. Most sane people don't play as much Five Nights at Freddy's as I do, so most people won't find this mechanic to be that big of a deal, but hey, at least it's not a stupid fucking music box mechanic. We'll talk about that later. The only other threat introduced on this night is Bonnie. Bonnie is incredibly simple in how he works, as is typical in most FNAF games that feature him. Bonnie will make his way through the building and to your office. Afterwards, you'll be able to hear him at your door. You'll need to quickly go up to the door and hold it shut until you hear him leave like Five Nights at Freddy's 4. When you do, you'll know it's safe to reopen the door and continue the night. Very basic. That's just how we like Bonnie, isn't it, guys? Right? You like it when Bonnie's basic, right? You wouldn't want Bonnie to just hot bottom right into your office and start fingering you, would you? Freak. And with that, we can move on to the post-night 1 minigame. Here's where we get to talking a lot about how cool this game really is. This game does narrative storytelling in a different way than any other FNAF game I've ever seen. Instead of an 8-bit minigame or a slideshow lore dump, Tales of the Bunnyman turns into a visual novel during the post-night sections, having you play in the perspective of a different character each night. I think this is actually super cool. While yes, you may think that it looks straight out of a My Hero Academia DeviantArt fan page, it is very clear that an amazing amount of care and effort went into these post-night sections, and that cannot go unnoticed. Before I really start talking about the lore of this game, I need to make it incredibly clear that there was so much poured into this story. There's so many details that I could point out that would make this video quite literally take hours to complete. And while I'd love to be able to talk about all of it, I don't have the confidence in myself to do so, and to be able to portray it in the way that it rightfully deserves. I'll be going over what happens in the story, but I won't be diving into every single minute detail, and I apologize if you were hoping that I would. Anyways, in this minigame, we play in the perspective of Jeremy Jr. Fitzgerald. After hanging out with his friends at Freddy Fazbear's, he notices that his mom has not yet come to pick him up. After waiting an extended period of time, he decides to just watch the performance on stage. Hearing a strange whistling coming from backstage, he enters to investigate, only to abruptly get abducted and murdered by the Bunny Man, going on to possess Bonnie. I honestly think that these post-night minigames are a breath of fresh air in this genre. I've never seen anything like it before, and I'd love to see more FNAF games try to do something new like this to tell their story. But now it's time for us to move on to Night 2. Night 2 only introduces one new thread, that being Chica. Chica does exactly what you'd expect her to do, and no, I don't mean eating until she pops like a balloon. What I really mean is moving through the cameras and then going to your office. Oh my fucking god, that is gross. Yuck. Fucking yuck, bro.
She does go through one additional camera compared to Bonnie, making you see her less often than him, but other than that, she's exactly the same as Bonnie. I'll also use this night to talk about the only thing I dislike about this game. The mouse.
Oh my god, this mouse is atrocious. Oh no, this mouse is really bad.
If you're at all familiar with my channel, you'll already know that the way the mouse works is always something I'll have a problem with when fan games try to switch it up. In most FNAF games, when you move your mouse to the side of the screen will scroll in that direction until it hits the end of your office. That makes sense, and this is good. Tales of the Bunnyman instead decided to take a route similar to Sister Location. If you are to move your mouse to one side of the screen in Tales of the Bunnyman, your mouse won't follow the moving office. Instead, the game will keep track of its simulated X and Y positions in the office. And while this may sound super cool, in practice it leads to you having to move your mouse all the way across your desk or increasing your mouse's sensitivity to be able to make up for it. Is this nitpicky? Yes. But I am giving my opinion on a game, so I think it's important to talk about things that I notice, especially when it's the main interaction mechanic in the entire game. Anyways, moving on to the post-Night 2 minigame, where we play in the perspective of Susie Sutherland. The group of friends were supposed to play the newly installed arcade game, Pop Goes versus the Machinist? 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 Mechanist? Machinist? I don't know. Instead, she decides to split up from the group to go look for Bonnie. Walking around the building, we can talk to a kid named Ollie, who mentions something about Bonnie acting weird recently. Given the timeline of the events this game has, I'm fairly certain that this cutscene is taking place 16 days after Jeremy's disappearance. So I think it's safe to say that Jeremy at this point in time is already inside of the Bonnie costume. During this minigame is when Susie can also find a VHS tape relating to Edwin Murray. If you couldn't already tell, this game's story is heavily entwined with the official FNAF games. Later, Susie heads over to Pirate's Cove to get a peek at Foxy, getting startled by William inside of the Spring Bonnie suit. It's at this point I need to mention two things. One, why is this specific camera in the post-nights a 3D render instead of the usual 2D drawing? And two, why is William the only character in the entire game to have voice acting?
Mr. Afton, don't scare me like that.
Now, what's a missy like you doing snooping around a pirate's property?
Why is he voice acting?
I'm much more curious about my second question. I was a little caught off guard when I first heard him speak, since, again, nobody in the game thus far ever has. But regardless, that's not very important. After a brief, uncomfortable conversation with Afton, we meet up with our friends again at the new arcade machine, and as we play the game, we're seen being stalked by the Bunnyman. If you couldn't already guess, Susie Sutherland goes on to possess Chica. Now it's time to talk about Night 3, which introduces one new threat, Freddy and the Marionette. Now, pause. Let's just stop for a moment and talk about Freddy first, okay? Freddy, like Foxy, has two different attacks. We'll talk about the more simple one first. Freddy will make his way through the cameras and enter your boiler room. The reason he does so is to attempt to cut the power, because doing so will allow for the Marionette to come spread your buns and lick up your crack. To prevent this from happening, we will have to enter the boiler room and hold our flashlight on his face, causing him to bug out and leave the boiler room. However, before he does, we actually get to see him creepily tilt his body. Such a small detail, but I actually really like it. Now we can talk about the other mechanic Freddy has that I originally thought was going to make me want to skin an elephant. As previously mentioned, it's clear that Freddy wants to assist in helping the Marionette grope us. So, Freddy's other attack is him going to the music box to fuck up the Marionette's sleep schedule. Fun fact, I used to work a graveyard shift at a news station, and let me tell you, you don't want to fuck with nobody's sleep schedule, bro. So, in order to save the Marionette's sanity, we must remotely shut down the music box before Freddy can finish. Moving on to the Night 3 post-night minigame, we play in the perspective of Fritz Smith II. Let me tell you, this guy is a big fan of Foxy. So much so that he insists on constantly talking like a pirate.
something that made me want to eat my own lungs throughout my playthrough because I was writhing in cringe. A.S. the worst one. It be fixin' to be jolly. What the fuck does that mean? Fritz leaves the group to go look for Foxy. Going to Pirate's Cove, he finds a decommissioned Foxy behind the curtains. Additionally, he finds a diary written by Henry. I guess for some reason, this is where Henry goes to vent, right next to the fucked up looking robot. A little weird, Henry, but you do you, boo. Inside of the diary, we read that Henry is struggling to cope with the loss of his daughter and his theory about Jeremy and Susie's disappearances having something to do with each other. Little did he know how right he truly was. Whilst continuing to read the diary, the bunny man appears behind him and drags him into the back room, all while taunting him, saying that he thought he was more interested in Foxy than Henry's diary. Fritz would go on to possess Foxy. Moving on to night 4, we get to talk about a very odd threat, Balloon Boy. Yes, for some reason, Balloon Boy is in this game. Don't question it. I guess the developer of this game just hates fun. Balloon Boy isn't a very difficult threat to deal with, thankfully, instead serving more of an annoyance, which is very fitting for his character. Balloon Boy can only appear in 2 rooms in the entire game, the boiler room and your backstage camera. You'll have to listen out for a vent sound cue. When you hear it, you'll have to travel to the back room and find where Balloon Boy is, because, unlike Freddy, he has multiple different locations that he can stand in. Once you find Balloon Boy, just like Freddy, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on him until he goes away. I'm really not entirely sure why Balloon Boy exists in this game. I have yet to find any story reason for it either. Maybe it's just a popular character to put into the game, or maybe I'm just reading way too much into this. I'm not really sure. But hey, let's move on to the post-night 4 minigame. In this minigame, we play as Gabriel Collins. Gabriel sneaks into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza because he has a hunch that his missing friends are still inside. Once he enters, he searches the location, eventually discovering the marionette. They quickly become friends and begin exploring the establishment together. Eventually, they stumble across Michael and William Afton. William is trying to convince Michael to work as a performer, playing the character of Bonnie. But before we can hear anything else, William spots us. He chases us through the building, and the marionette hides us in its gift box. However, unfortunately for Gabriel, William finds him anyway and is knocked out. He wakes up inside of the Freddy Fazbear costume, watching William Afton jump around the dining room, mocking him through his last breaths. Gabriel would then go on to possess Freddy. This is easily one of the most fucked up cutscenes throughout the entire game. I'm no edgelord, as some people seem to think I am, but I really enjoy when games show us the depraved things that the villains do. I and many others don't want to just hear about things happening, we want to see them as well. Of course, I don't think we all want to literally see the children getting murdered, but I think showing off the situations in the way that Tales of the Bunnyman does is incredibly interesting. Next, we get to move on to Night 5, the final main night in Tales of the Bunnyman. This night adds Fredbear, an interesting but fitting final character choice. Fredbear acts as an everything character, being able to take on the role of every animatronic besides Balloon Boy and Foxy. However, unlike most everything nights that take place in other FNAF games, Fredbear is active alongside each other animatronic, adding one more layer of stress to the nights. Again, he doesn't have any unique mechanics by himself, but this time I'm honestly okay with that, only because the other characters are still active. It's at this point I want to bring up something I should have brought up a long time ago: the character designs. From what I've seen, the community seems to be pretty split on their opinions of these character designs. A lot of people love them and think that in combination with the grungy environment, it makes them look very creepy. However, on the other hand, I've seen plenty of people who think that the designs look unprofessional and seemingly come out of a game that came out many years ago. I personally have no problems with the character designs. I think they look creepy and uncomfortable. However, I do think that the texturing on the characters does look a bit odd, but nothing that I feel takes away from the immersion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Also, since I'm being a little meta right now, go subscribe to my new channel, Dxtr Gray. I cover non-FNAF horror games over there, and we have a lot of fun. Anyways, moving on to the final post-night minigame where we play in the perspective of Cassandra Baldwin, or better known, Cassidy. Now, noticing that she's the only member of her friend group that hasn't gone missing, she vows to figure out what happened to them and find where they all disappeared to. Entering the back room, she finds a Fredbear plushie which, throughout the game, has been shown to be able to teleport on its own, and yet, for some reason, nobody felt like that was weird at all. This is really the only gripe I have with this story, the plushie teleporting around, and multiple people know about this, yet nobody is at all a little concerned about it. On top of that, it is literally never once elaborated on or explained why this happens. I can't even draw a conclusion because there's quite literally no reason, but let's try to put that behind us for a moment and continue. We do know that the plushie is being used by Afton to lure Cassidy into the back room. Now, pause. I know I just said there's literally no reason given as to why it's teleporting, and you may be questioning why I said that even though I just stated that William was using it to lure Cassidy. However, that still doesn't explain how it was fucking teleporting, and still doesn't explain why nobody gave that a second thought. Anyways, Cassidy is successfully lured into the back room. Scared, Cassidy runs out of the pizzeria and later returns for a Halloween party. Baka! I know that's not what that says, I'm sorry. As she explores, she's found by the bunny man who presumably knocks her out after stating, "You forgot me." She awakens to find herself inside of the Fredbear costume. William explains that originally he planned to save the Fredbear costume for Henry, but decided to use it for Cassidy instead. During their conversation, it's revealed that Vincent, the character that we've been playing as in the night sections, according to William, is a terrible night guard, which would technically leave him responsible for not noticing the children's disappearances on the camera, since every action that William had been taking was done under the constant surveillance of those cameras, including what's happening right now in front of us. This would give us a perfect reason as to why he's returning to the restaurant now to find his daughter, because he didn't watch her like he was supposed to. He never saw what happened. Afterwards, we get one last cutscene. Vincent walks up to the Fredbear animatronic and realizes it's his daughter. However, he trips and falls, which leads to him getting killed by his own daughter, and Tales of the Bunny Man abruptly comes to a close. Almost. There's actually one more thing to talk about, that being Night 6, or as this game calls it, the epilogue. In it, after completing the final challenge, which is just a harder version of Night 5, we see the line, "He finally found the suit that will become his tomb, the last lingering piece of his soul. A good song never dies." With that, we get to watch William's springlock failure and onlook as he bleeds out. We're shown that Vincent, our character, was found dead inside of Freddy Fazbear's, and several news outlets labeled him as the reason the kids were murdered. I can't lie to you guys, I'm really eager to talk about this story, since after reading into it, I actually think it's really good, and it's clear that a bunch of effort was put into it. But like I said previously, I'm just not confident in my abilities to do it for myself. I've tossed around the idea of just reading the highly detailed explanation on the wiki that was written by somebody that was far more talented than I am, but I've decided against doing that since I don't want to come off as lazy and uninspired. And as much as I hate saying this, I'd highly recommend you go to the wiki and read up on it. It's actually such an amazingly well-written story, and I think it might just be one of the best takes on the official FNAF story I've ever seen. Overall, I think Tales of the Bunny Man is an enjoyable experience. The post-night minigames are interesting, and the story is fantastic and told in a way that isn't overtly confusing like most FNAF games like to be. However, I do think that the actual gameplay mechanics are pretty lackluster. Not only does each character not really have synergy with one another, this game is also just too easy. Throughout the nights, it never really feels like the characters are becoming more aggressive, which tends to lead to boring nights where you're just waiting for the much more enjoyable minigame sections. Uniqueness in FNAF games, something that isn't the most common thing in the world. I'm sure as FNAF players, we can all agree that something interesting that we've never seen before coming around is something we don't see all too often. But you better believe we suck it up whenever we get the chance to sink our big meaty claws into it. The game we'll be talking about today is a bit older. Being created 5 years ago, I'm honestly surprised I had never heard of it before, as it truly is one of the most unique FNAF fan games I've ever talked about on this channel, with a unique art style, interesting yet incredibly confusing story, and a mixture of a bunch of different game styles and mechanics. Join me today as we dive into the intricately crafted world of the Freddy Files. The Freddy Files is actually broken up into chapters instead of nights, and from the sounds of it, I'm pretty sure that each chapter of the game is 1 hour of the one night that takes place during this game. Upon starting the game, we're greeted to an opening cutscene. Our character is on the phone with 911, saying that while working, the door to the building closed and locked itself so he can't get out. The dispatcher said the police are on their way, but it will take several hours for them to get there, which, by the way, is bullshit. This restaurant is presumably in a city, or at least a town, so how is it going to take the police hours to get there? Regardless, we still have to finish our shift anyways, so we figure it's not a big deal. The dispatcher makes a point to us to not enter any unauthorized areas, which I personally find weird. And with that, we're spat into the first chapter where we're greeted with some exposition. Fazbear Entertainment started their first business with Fredbear's Family Diner, a successful business that took over the market for 5 years. However, a few months later, a child was known to be murdered by the mascot, Fredbear. Later, 4 other children went missing during the incident as well. The police searched the entire establishment for any signs of the children, but to no avail. The co-worker of the diner did not negotiate either. The case was then closed after a second failed search, April 26th, 1983. And with that, we're ready to begin the chapter. And this is where you'll notice this game is not your typical FNAF game, which is exactly why I wanted to cover it. This game, while yes, has a survival system like Five Nights at Freddy's, it's more of a top-down free roam than anything else. Whoa, what the fuck? Whoa. The point of this first chapter is to unlock a door that we're not supposed to unlock. It's an unauthorized area, so I have no idea why we're doing this despite the dispatcher literally just telling us not to. This chapter serves as an escape room, which I actually really like. And of course, there are some threats that are trying to stop us from completing it. So let's talk about those two guys first. The first threat introduced in this chapter is Golden Freddy. His mechanic is very simple. As you can see, we are equipped with a flashlight and a fear meter. If our flashlight is off, our fear meter will slowly increase. With the light on, the fear will go back down. So keeping this light on is obviously something we're going to want to do. Golden Freddy directly counters that. He's a ghost character that moves through walls, and he's very fast. If you ever see Golden Freddy near you, you need to shut off your flashlight and make sure he doesn't run into you by dodging out of the way. If he touches you, you're obviously dead. Something I do want to note that I don't really like about this section, and Golden Freddy specifically, there's a lot of reading in this game, mainly in the form of just interacting with things. And Golden Freddy will still be active while you're reading something, and you can't turn your flashlight on or off while you have a dialogue box up. So be prepared to die very frequently because of poor timings like this.
What on earth? It's a key. Whatever hide it in here. Doesn't open the door.
But fuck, dude.
Can't do that while I'm fucking reading.
The second threat introduced here is Shadow Freddy.
I'm Shadow Freddy, I'm so awesome and black. I'm black. I got white eyes, I'm black, I'm Shadow Freddy.
Shadow Freddy, while being awesome and black, is a much more stressful character to deal with as he's a lot more random. Occasionally, you will hear him growl. When you do, you'll notice that your fear will start increasing even if your flashlight is on. This signals to you that you need to go find him somewhere in the building that he'll teleport to at random. When you find him, all you need to do is hold your flashlight on him and he'll go away, wherein your fear will start to decrease again. Now, these two together, in all honesty, are not that difficult to deal with. So let's talk about what exactly exactly we have to do to open that stuck door. To start, near the stage you'll find a vent. Interacting with it will tell you that something is inside, but you can't reach it. Moving down to the kitchen, inside you'll find a safe that requires a code that we don't have. Just outside of the kitchen are some random planks and sticks for some reason. Using one of the sticks, we can go back over to the vent and fish out the item, which we find is a key. This key, unfortunately, doesn't unlock the door, but it does unlock something else. Moving down to the office, inside there is a locked box. Using the key we got from the vent, we can open it. Inside there are several animatronic heads, but more importantly, there's a remote. Using this remote, we can turn on the monitor in our office, which will then display the code to the safe. Now, obviously, I could ask several questions as to why things are happening the way they are. Why was there wood on the floor? Why was there a key in the vent? Why was the remote to the TV locked in a box? Why does the TV just have the code to a safe? But this is clearly just a puzzle escape room game, so weird shit like this is just kind of par for the course. Continuing, now knowing the code, we input it into the safe and get a hammer. Using this hammer, we figure we can break the locked door down, so we head over to do exactly that. And that's when we're thrown into a much more FNAF feeling minigame. During this minigame, we obviously have to break down the door. However, Golden Freddy will be attacking us the entire time. While we pound on the door, he will slowly approach us from behind to beat on our bottom. Occasionally, we'll have to turn around and hold our flashlight on him to make him back up into the darkness. I personally found that pounding on the door 15 times is the most you can do to stay safe without Golden Freddy golden showering you. Do this enough times and the door will open, and we see the following cutscene. So yeah, we stumble upon the body of 3 of the dead children. Truly gruesome. However, I also have to ask why there quite literally is nothing inside of this massive room. Who knows? We reflect on what we saw and realize that 4 kids went missing, yet we only saw 3. Before we can think about it more, we hear the rest of the characters in the building activate. And knowing our lives are about to get a lot more difficult, we can move on to chapter 2. Guys, I've got some great news for you. After a long time of waiting, the Skaggs plushie is finally live. I've been working with Makeshift to make the perfect Skaggs plushie possible, and I think he's turned out perfect. We obviously talk a lot about 5 Nights at Freddy's on this channel, so I figured it'd be great to make him in the exact style as the FNAF plushies, which means he'll easily be able to sit on your desk or shelf without falling over. You guys made this possible. I could have never done this without you. To everyone who supported the petition a few months back, thank you guys so much. But you guys have to be fast, as Skaggs is only around for a limited time. Once this campaign is over, he'll be gone forever, so you really don't want to miss out. This is hands down the coolest thing that has ever happened to me as a YouTuber, and I never thought 2 years ago when I started this channel that it would get me this far in life. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate every single one of you. You guys have made my dreams come true, and this is one small way I can celebrate that. So go get yourself a Skaggs plushie before time runs out. He's the perfect gift for anyone who likes stuffed animals, and I guarantee if you put this guy in your bed, the Huzz are gonna flock to you like birds. So that's always a plus too. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and thank you to Makeshift for making this plushie with me and putting up with my constant tweaks to make sure that Skaggs is as perfect as he is. Sorry for interrupting. Let's get back to the video. Chapter 2 moves much more into a typical FNAF game. When we load in, we find ourselves in an office. We know from the last chapter that all of the characters have activated, so now we have to hunker down and defend ourselves. So let's go over the tools at our disposal. To start, if we turn around, we'll find our cameras. They're just cameras. Nothing crazy to talk about here. Turning back in front of us is where things start to matter. To start, you'll notice on the left and right doors, we'll be able to set off an alarm system. When you use these alarms, your computer's RAM will increase. Now, unlike actual computer RAM, once you stop using the alarm, the RAM usage will not go back down, which again, doesn't make any sense because that's not how RAM works, but whatever. What you have to do is manually delete the RAM by holding the delete RAM button on your monitor. That doesn't really make sense, but it's clear the dev isn't very tech savvy, but that's okay. Also on our monitor are 2 more alarms, Alarm 15 and Alarm 24. We're not going to worry about Alarm 24 right now. Alarm 15 is an alarm that plays directly in front of you. The phone guide describes this area of the building as outside, so I'm imagining it's literally a window to outside of the building. You just can't tell because it's dark as fuck. Same with the other two alarms, it will also increase your RAM usage. Now let's talk about the threats this chapter introduces. Fun fact, there's 3 of them: Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. I'm going to talk about Bonnie and Chica at the same time since they do the exact same thing. They will try to make it to either of your doors respectively. Bonnie attacks the left, Chica attacks the right. Once they enter your office, they will quite literally be directly in your fucking face, with their rank ass breath searing your nose hairs. All you have to do is hold the alarm on whichever side they went to and they will quickly leave. But there is one other path they both can take as well, and that's to the window in front of you. When they're out there, play Alarm 15 and they will return right to outside of your door, where they will then soon enter your office, giving you little time to delete RAM between those moments. Freddy is the final threat introduced in this chapter, and he works much the same as Bonnie and Chica, with one major change that honestly makes him easier than the other two we've talked about already. When he enters your office, he'll stand directly in front of you, so you can actually play the alarm on either side and he will leave. The only other change he has from Bonnie and Chica is that you have to play the alarm on him for a lot longer. Just like them, he can also go to the window, but the same rules apply to him. Chapter 2 is really just an introduction night, and despite the fact that you can see Foxy on stage, he never activates, which really means you never have to check the cameras throughout this entire chapter. And on top of that, since Foxy didn't activate and we never used Alarm 24, something tells me that Chapter 3 will also be taking place in this office, so let's move on to that. So, turns out we're actually not on to Chapter 3 quite yet. If you remember at the start of Chapter 2, we saw 12 a.m. Well, at the beginning of this next section, we see 1 a.m., which would mean we're still currently in Chapter 2. This hour is back to the top-down gameplay we saw in Chapter 1. This time around, we see our character get absolutely fucking bodied by some random guy. Oh my god, oh dear lord. Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead as fuck. He's dead as disco, bro. Dead as shit. He's Dunyan rings. In the note we get on this night, he says he kidnapped us to play a game, and we'll be playing with some minions. Fantastic. The gameplay of this night has us unlocking a door, which takes forever. Seriously, look at this. Oh my god. Really? So yeah. That's a lot of fun. While this is happening, we'll have to constantly be checking the doors to our left and our right. Going up to them, we can listen for growling. If we hear growling, all we have to do is run to the closet in the middle of the office and hide until they go away. However, if we stay in the closet for too long, we'll be killed by another character. Why am I getting raped from all angles today, huh? After we fully unlock the door, I fully expected this section to come to an end, but no. Not quite. Instead, we get thrown into a fucking Shadow Freddy boss fight. What the fuck? Whoa. What the fuck? Boss. And unironically, this boss fight is better than the only boss fight in Heartbound. But let's be honest, that's not very hard to beat. You'll have to dodge these little colored things, not really sure what the hell they're supposed to be, and then he'll start throwing pizzas at you, which are super not fun to dodge. These stupid pizzas were actually the only thing I took damage to in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. And finally, he drops these things. I don't know what they are. At first I thought olives, but then I thought about it and that doesn't make any sense. Comment down below if you know what these things are. But after you complete the fight, you'll find the body of the child who supposedly possessed Freddy, and he bleeds on the floor, which would imply to me that the kid was alive and we just killed the fucking child. If that's the case, does that mean we're clinically insane? Maybe so. We learned that we were never allowed to tell the police about the missing kids because he brought us here? Or something. I'm not totally sure why we can't tell the police. My only guess is something along the lines of it'll look like we killed them all. I'm not really sure at the moment, but I'm sure we'll learn plenty more. For now, let's continue. Now we move on to the next section of this game. We're still in Chapter 2, except now it's 1:30 a.m. That's right, we're really splitting this game up into as many pieces as we can, and I'm all for it. Unfortunately, there's literally nothing interesting for me to talk about during this section. We're back in the office area, except literally nothing has changed since the first time we played this. Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica move slightly faster, but nothing new is actually introduced. So let's move on to 2 a.m. 2 a.m. actually marks the beginning of Chapter 3, which means we have something interesting to talk about. We learn that the building got shut down due to it being disgusting as fuck. Food all over the floor, little kid throw up down the backs of the robots, all the nasty shit. During this section, we play as a temporary janitor, so I guess we just have all the fucking jobs now, huh? Something you'll notice about this night as we talk about it is that even though, yes, we are a janitor, literally no cleaning happens whatsoever. Instead, all we do is fix a fucking elevator. As that would suggest, this section of the game takes place in an elevator. Our goal is to get to floor 5, but in order to do that, we first have to connect each floor to like a mainframe or something. I have no fucking idea, just roll with it. All this section consists of is basically looking at this fucking screen until this bar makes it to this square. Once it does, press the green button on the elevator to move to the next floor. Of course, it's not just that, as there is a threat trying to eat our butts the entire time. That threat being Withered Bonnie. I'm not going to dive into the possible reason as to why we see normal Bonnie during the next sections and Withered Bonnie now. Maybe we're not playing as the same character, maybe this section takes place during a different time, or fuck it, maybe Bonnie just took his fucking face off. Who really cares? While you're connecting the elevator, Bonnie will slowly get closer and closer to you. Once he gets too close, all you have to do is close the elevator door until you hear him back off. Then go back to doing what you were doing. While the door is closed, it will drain power, but considering you only have to close the door on Bonnie for like 4 seconds, there is literally no way you're running out of power during this section. After reaching floor 5, we get a cutscene. Our character walks past an assembly line and finds the puppet's gift box. On it, we find a note that tells us to meet in the alley of Fredbear's Family Diner, signed by the puppet herself. What the fuck is going on? Why did the puppet leave this note here? Why did she know that we were going to be here? And why not just meet me to talk to me at this place since you already know I would be here? Who knows? But I'm sure we'll find out as we continue. Speaking of, let's do that. Here we are, back into the office section of the game, where this time Foxy is actually finally activated. Really should have happened last night, but we'll roll with it. Let's talk about what he does, as even though he is super basic, he's still the most interesting of the characters so far. Foxy can attack both your left and right door, much like Freddy, except Foxy actually takes advantage and turns it into an actual mechanic, unlike Freddy. Foxy too can appear at your window, except the main difference with him is that we're told he can only hear the frequency of Alarm 24. So finally, we have a use for this alarm. It works in the exact same way as Alarm 15 and will just send him back. The real difference with Foxy is how he attacks your door. Unlike every other character, he won't ever enter your office, so he finally gives our camera a use after 2 nights of never needing to turn around. You'll have to watch the cameras next to your office to tell which side Foxy is going to attack. When you see him enter either one of these cameras, you'll have to use the alarm on that side of the office and he'll leave. However, you may have noticed something weird when I explained that, and I'm thinking the same thing. The alarm that plays when you use it on the doors is the exact same alarm as Alarm 15, yet it scares away Foxy. But the phone guy told us that Foxy can't hear Alarm 15, so like, what the fuck is even going on? This makes no sense whatsoever. Just wanted to point out that little inconsistency. There's nothing else to talk about on this night, so we can move on to the next chapter. Chapter 4 puts us back into the top-down 8-bit minigame style, something I was pretty excited to see. This section acts kind of like a puzzle section, and I say kind of because there's also quite a bit that isn't puzzles. To start, all we have to do is push 2 levers, getting scared as fuck by a shadow at the same time.
Maybe I can open this.
Oh no, that opened up this side, okay. Oh my god! What the fuck was that? Then we have to press 2 buttons to open a gate. But I'm not kidding you, this is quite possibly one of the tightest timings I've ever seen in my life. Pressing these 2 buttons on the timer you have to press them in is borderline frame perfect. Really made my penis hurt trying to pull this off. However, after doing so, it opens another gate with some levers to pull a certain number of times to open another gate. To figure out the code, we have to do some basic mental math. But for someone like me who sucks ass at mental math, this part took me much longer to beat than it should have, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Afterwards, we continue and have to do another even more bullshit double button press timing. This one is absolutely brutal. I can't even lie to you.
Got it. Fucking A. That's ass.
That opens another gate and we find the marionette. Upon walking closely, we start a conversation. We learn that we're playing as Henry, as the puppet refers to us as her father. There's a whole lot of fucking yapping here, but she basically tells him that William is killing kids again and that a new establishment is opening. The plan is to tamper with the animatronics so that Michael then tampers with them, causing them to attack William, and then William will go to take them apart, wherein he'll be forced into the suit and die, and then we'll burn down the building with everyone inside. So really just the FNAF storyline, but that's our plan. Finally, we're thrown into a midnight motorist minigame for some reason. I'm really not sure why, but it's long as fuck. And from what I could see, there was no secret way to go to juniors like there is in the original. We end by getting some dialogue from Henry and nervous about what he should do and what will happen if he goes along with the plan. And with that, we move on to the next night section that's probably going to make me fall asleep. With 3:30 rolling around, it's time for us to move on to the next night section. And believe it or not, there's actually something new that gets added this time around. That being Golden Freddy. I'm pretty sure is who this is, at least. We get a phone call from Golden Freddy this time around. He says he loves playing with us. So it seems that the atmosphere has taken an unfortunate sexual turn, but we have to roll with it. Golden Freddy's mechanic is so simple, yet easily the most annoying one we've seen yet. All he'll do is at random appear right in front of you. When he does, all you need to do is turn around and he'll leave. You might be wondering how that would ever become a challenge under any circumstance. Well, that's where we need to start talking about the rest of the character's AI being ramped up to the fucking moon during this section, because it's insane. The rest of the characters during this night move around so quickly and will be in your office almost at all times, meaning that your RAM usage is going to be through the roof for the first time throughout your playthrough. And who's going to be there to interrupt you while trying to get the animatronics out of your office and trying to get your RAM down? Golden Freddy will be there. That's who, at all times, to make sure your blood is boiling as much as possible. No 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 no. Bonnie, go away, bro! I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. Fuck! 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 Oh my god, 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 oh my fucking god. Oh my god, my RAM is so fucking high. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, fuck. But that's really all this section has to offer. Really did a 180 in terms of difficulty, and I like it a lot considering the other sections of this game have been so piss easy I was able to film them half asleep. Chapter 5 gets a little confusing as I started to become aware that we are likely switching between the POVs of two different characters and have been throughout the game. It seems like we know we've been playing as Henry several times, and we're doing so during this section as well. But if we're playing as Henry during this section, then it must mean we're not playing as Henry during the repeating night sections. To start, this night begins with a note telling us that Fazbear's is closing after the rumors about the missing children. We all know how this goes. What gets weird is that during this section, which keep in mind is 5 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., we have to play through an entire night from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., which means that this section of the game has to have happened at a different time. We know that Henry's plan is to plant sound chips in the robots so that Michael tampers with them. Then he'll fire Michael. William will dismantle the robots and then free them or something. I don't know, it's a bit confusing and I'm more than a bit dumb. Let's actually talk about what we have to do during this section and why I actually shouldn't be explaining it to you because I'm not even sure what I did. Basically, we have two doors to our left and right that we can close. Doing so drains our power. Throughout this night, all of the four characters will attempt to get into our office to void us of our insides, which is just not something we're looking forward to. When they get to the door, you'll hear fast footsteps. All you have to do is hold the door closed until you hear slow footsteps. However, if that's all you'll do, the characters will be at your door too frequently and you'll run out of power. So that's where the PC in front of us comes in handy. Using it, we can do two things. The first is scanning the entire building to see where the threats are at, and the second is an audio lure that you can play in any room. Let me be completely open and honest with you guys right here. I have no fucking idea the proper way to use these lures. Every time you do an action on the PC, you have to wait 6 seconds for the tools to refresh. At first, I thought I should spam lure one central area to get everyone in one spot and keep them there. But apparently, that's bad, as I was told from a tip after dying. So then, I'm not gonna lie, I just started spamming the audio lure all through a bunch of different rooms and random areas, and doing that just worked. Oh, hey, look at that. That was kinda tough. I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know what I was doing with the audio lure. I really wish I could provide a strategy here, but I really can't. I'm guessing I just got lucky because there was literally no critical thinking coming from my head during this section. But with that, surviving until 6 a.m. will complete this half-hour section of the overall game. Again, I said this part is confusing as fuck. Henry mentions the plan to kill William is almost ready, and at least I'm pretty sure William's saying it because this cutscene starts with I am. But at the same time, a few lines later, the person talks about finding more pages, which sounds like something our non-Henry player was doing, so I literally have no fucking idea what's going on. I'm really just here to talk about the gameplay, so let's do that instead and continue. Moving on to 4:30, we've got yet another typical night section to talk about. And I can't lie to you, not much to say here. No new threats are added, but holy shit, do the threats that already exist really start to ramp up. The RNG in this section really starts to show on this night, as I would have a character at my window, at my door, down my pants, in my dick pretty much constantly, which gave me almost no time to ever delete the RAM. It took me only 2 attempts to beat this section, but the insane contrast between how aggressive they were on the first attempt versus the second is drastic and should not be overlooked. This was some crazy bullshit, but once again, nothing new is actually introduced, so we can move on to Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is by far probably the most interesting one we've talked about so far. It begins with a cutscene, one that should be all too familiar to us as FNAF fans. So just for you guys, fuck talking about it, let's take a look at it together.
So, this is it. It's time to end what William has done. It's time to end their suffering. Those little souls trapped in this labyrinth. I've gathered them up in here, and I can finally destroy them. I've found the ones that have yet to be destroyed and set free. For instance, those little children, the ones that come together as a group on a daily basis. I've always wanted to see them every single day. They'd always brighten up the atmosphere in Circus Baby's Pizza World. Every day, they'd come to play with all of the animatronics. Every employee, employer, and manager knew the name of those 3. But ever since William made his poor design choices, things were never going in the right direction for them. On the very next day, they all disappeared. I'd never realized that William could create such abominations. I realized there was a reason why Funtime Freddy had a huge tank. It was quite obvious. And no wonder the other 2 were always active every now and then. Not to mention Circus Baby. She was brought outside on the first day and was forced to stay inside the next day. It's such a misery, to be honest. I wasn't the only one who saw Circus Baby capture Elizabeth. Now, her soul is trapped inside of her. I wouldn't forget my daughter as well. No more shall I let her suffer as one of William's creations. This place is where everything shall end. A maze with no exit. A labyrinth with no prize. They don't even realize they are trapped. For some of them, I believe there is peace and perhaps more. Although, for you, William, the darkest pit of hell is ready to swallow you whole. You will keep burning and burning along with the creations of your own. This is where the story ends. For my daughter, the other innocent children, and William, this ends for all of us. End communication.
God, it doesn't matter how many times I hear the FNAF 6 Henry speech. Every single time I hear it, it gives me chills. Easily one of the best monologues in gaming history, right up there with the definition of insanity speech from Voss. Try to find a better speech, I fucking dare you. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section after that cutscene. Well, it's very weird, to say the least. In it, we play as the puppet, wandering through a dark forest. Scattered around are the 5 souls of the missing children, each with a color above their head. We know that at this point, we're playing as Charlie, Henry's daughter, obviously. After a bit of searching, we're told to find all of the magic to set them free. Hidden around the forest are several weird magic orbs. After collecting 3, we can begin to set the children free. We do so by finding 5 colored cupcakes around the map, and taking each colored cupcake to its respective colored child. Pause. That sounds terrible. Anyways, after doing so, we hear from Henry again. He thanks his daughter for saving the children, boasts about William finally being gone. He mentions he has all the Freddy files.
He said it! He said it!
And with that, we're ready to move on to the final part of our shift, wherein after we should hopefully have the cops arrive. Because if you recall, that's literally the first thing we did. Call the police, and they're somehow still not here yet, which is completely crazy, I will add. But who cares? Let's move on to the final shift. And here we are at the final chapter of the game. What's new to talk about in this final section? A cool final boss fight night? No, it's nothing new. Same shit, different day, really. But what is interesting is what happens afterwards. Henry arrives at some door. I assume it's the door to the building. He says way too much shit nobody cares about. Like deadass, he talks for so fucking long. Bro just recaps the whole game. It was so fucking boring, I'm not even gonna put you guys through it. Point is, he collected all the Freddy files, which helped him remember what William did or something, and now William's dead. Cool. Children are free. Great. Now all we have left to do is stop Fazbear Entertainment from ever coming back. How is he going to do that? Well, lucky us, that's not our fucking problem to figure out because Henry opens the doors and the credits roll and the Freddy files comes to a close. Wait. Hold up. Freeze frame. What about the cops? Do we not remember that this game began with a phone call to the police? Where the fuck are they? Were we Henry the entire time? Or are we jumping back and forth between 2 people? And if we were Henry the entire time, where the fuck are the cops? Why did we call them if we ended up leaving the building by ourselves anyways? What the fuck is going on? Also, if that wasn't a big enough of a fuck you, this game actually still isn't done. After the credits finish rolling, the fucking creator of the game starts talking to us and goes on a whole fucking monologue about having to do a whole bunch of shit to do something. I have no fucking idea. I was hardly paying attention. Basically, we have to go back to an earlier chapter with a locked door, find a key, open the door, but not before going to another chapter where we typed in a code and instead type in his name. Whose name? I have no fucking clue. Then open the door, go to another chapter to a room that we never did anything in, find another key or something, then play 4 minigames in the extras menu, but do something specific in them to find a key in all 4, then go to the survival mode of the game, which isn't even made, by the way. Click the bottom of the screen on an invisible fucking button, then you're teleported to a room with 4 keyholes and a door, put the 4 keys from the minigame in the holes, unlock the door, and then fucking something happens. Do I have any idea what happens? No, not at all. Well, luckily for us, I found a guy that actually did it. Shout out to Tanzi Natali for actually doing all this bullshit so that I didn't have to. Basically, there's a final boss fight with a character named Null, and it's just like a bullet hell, except shitty. Then the creator talks to us again. Apparently, the creator of the game inserted himself into the game as the Red Freddy, who apparently isn't even Golden Freddy, it's just the fucking developer. He says he can, like, change the AI of everything or something. Guys, I'm gonna be so honest, I just don't fucking give a shit. If you guys are curious as to what happened after the Null fight, go watch Tonsi's video about it. Holy shit, I just don't fucking care. But that's all the Freddy Files has to offer. Overall, I do think this game is actually pretty cool. I love the idea of mixing in night sections with the little mini games, and even though lore-wise this game is a confusing clusterfuck, I think from a gameplay standpoint, it was still pretty cool. Even if the gameplay is easy as fuck, at least there's something different to do all the time. Also, the pixel art style is super charming, so that's nice too. The Five Nights at Freddy's formula. Arguably what defines a FNAF game in the genre of a FNAF game. You're stuck in a small space, you can't move, and several threats are trying to eliminate you as you use a small amount of tools to defend yourself for an arbitrary amount of time. This, in a nutshell, is Five Nights at Freddy's as a genre. However, there are some Five Nights at Freddy's fan games that don't follow this formula, and if it wasn't for the use of the characters from the original game, you would have no idea that they were even FNAF games to begin with. And maybe you can think of a few games like this. The game I'll be covering today is another one of those games. A game so unique, so good, that if it didn't use official FNAF characters, it could easily be its own fantastic survival horror experience. So sit back, strap in, and join me today as we cover Fredbear and Friends Reboot. You can honestly think about Fredbear and Friends Reboot as more of an Outlast, Resident Evil, or Poppy Playtime style game, purely in terms of how it plays. It's a story-based, free-roam survival horror game, except it uses characters and settings from the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, and it's honestly super cool. We play as a guy named Thomas. When this game takes place, the Fredbear and Friends restaurant had been closed for over 26 years, and together with our friends Chris, Ashley, and Richard, they all decided it'd be a great idea to do some urban exploring in the now abandoned building, not knowing that they were about to walk into a sick and sadistic death trap, the likes of which they'd never experienced before. We drive to the restaurant where all of our friends are waiting and head inside to find them. We all talk about what the plan is, and it seems like they don't even fucking have one. So like, why are we even here? No matter, we decide to all split up like Scooby and the gang to explore faster, something I would never agree to do because this building is so dark I can barely see 10 feet in front of me. So, to solve the darkness problem, Richard finds the power room as we enter the office of the building. Successfully turning the power on, I ask the question, is it even possible for a building 26 years abandoned to even be able to have power? That's a genuine question, by the way. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but like, who's paying that bill? The city? I have no idea. After having our fun in the office, we meet back up with our bald friend Chris. I know being bald isn't a crucial plot point, but a plot point I found relevant to point out. Like, imagine being bald. Couldn't be me. I have luscious locks. Bald bitch, loser bitch, boy, loser bitch. Chris tells us he wants to continue exploring to find out more about this place, which I call bullshit on because this bald loser is sitting down and is actually not exploring a damn thing. Heading back to the office, we find 2 documents for Chris since he's too lazy to go look for himself. One of the documents mentions the animatronics acting up, and the other talks about an armed man in a purple suit. I wonder who that could possibly be. We go back to where Chris was, only to find him missing. After exploring around, we realize we can't find a Richard or Ashley either. We hear a voice in the distance yelling to get away, and later hear what sounds like Richard getting attacked.
What the fuck?
We decide to say fuck our friends and run to the exit, only to find that the door is somehow locked. We decide we need to go hide in the office since there's a door we can close to keep ourselves safe. As we run down the hallway, we run into Chris. Relieved, we go to greet him, only to watch him get snatched from something hiding in the vent on the ceiling, pulling him up into the ceiling and tearing him apart.
Yeah, not this way though, not fucking that way, no we ain't.
We obviously turn around and go to the other entrance of the office since I'm not about to get ganked like Chris just did. As we go to the other hallway, we can hear loud metallic footsteps following behind us. We quickly hide under the desk and hope that whatever is following us is retarded. We watch as a crooked spring Bonnie limps through the office, unaware of our location. We come back up only to hear a ring of the phone on the desk. We answer the phone to be greeted by some douchebag using voice mod like those guys that go on Valorant to flirt with any female over the age of 10.
If you want to survive, listen very closely.
He tells us how to survive each of the 8 animatronics. The fucking 8 goddamn cock-sucking animatronics. My god, that is a lot. I'm not going to explain every single animatronic at the same time right now because that would be boring as fuck. And trust me, this phone call was also boring as fuck. The big thing that we're told is that Fredbear is scary, and he's the reason why one of the doors to the office is broken. So fantastic, we have a door that doesn't work. What exactly are we supposed to do? I have no idea. I have no direction whatsoever aside from let's go see if I can break the exit door down. But before we can try anything, we're forced to listen to a cutscene while there are 8 hungry robots whose mouths begin to water whenever they smell my gooch. During this cutscene, we're put into the perspective of a mechanic named Simon. We're told that we have to go into the Fredbear's building to fix some of the robots because the customers reported them to be acting aggressive. So we can gauge that this cutscene obviously takes place before the shutdown. After this cutscene, we're actually put into the perspective of this mechanic as we head inside the building to solve the problem at 5 in the morning because as an engineer, we're on call all the time, yet still get paid like dog shit and are still expected to just wake up and travel at any time, even for the smallest of reasons that could 100% wait until my fucking shift starts. But alright, let's go, I guess. As we enter the building, we notice the animatronics are on for some reason, and they shouldn't be at night. We figure somebody just forgot to shut them off, so we go to the employees' room to flip the switch to power them off to take a look at them. After grabbing the key from the office and heading inside, we find that the power lever for the robots is actually already off, yet for some reason, the characters are still on. We decide to just manually shut them off to work on them instead, so we walk to the stage, reach up to turn off Spring Freddy, only to get that Soulja Boy cranked on us and get knocked the fuck out by a guy who I can only assume to be the guy we heard on the phone. We come back to playing as Thomas again, and are tasked with obviously finding a way to get the exit door unlocked. We find a key to the bathroom on the office shelf and head down the hall to go inside. Inside of the bathroom, we find a hammer that we hope we can use to break the lock on the exit door. However, as we exit the bathroom, we see the non-attractive, fat-ass version of Chica heading in our direction, so we quickly jump inside of one of the stalls to hide. We hold our breath as Chica passes by and quickly run out to the exit door. We break the handle to the door and open it, seeing the final exit door. We don't get far before Foxy jumps out at us for some fucking reason. This door was locked? Why the hell was Foxy on the other side of it? Oh well, what the fuck ever. It's a little bit more important right now that we run away from the murder robot behind us. We run back to the employee room and hide behind a shelf. Foxy walks inside, but before he can find us, he hears a noise coming from the door inside of the room. Opening it, he finds who I can only assume to be Richard and jumps him like he's in Detroit. We take this chance to book it back to the exit. As we run, we hear Richard getting torn apart, screaming. We get to the door just in time, and Jesus fucking Christ, the door is gone? What the fuck? Let's ignore the fact that this doesn't make sense, because I don't think I need to explain to you why a door disappearing doesn't make sense. We turn around to see a certain large twitching bear. He just screams in our face and disappears, clearly being a hallucination. We figure there's no better time than the present to find another exit. As we walk into the main party room, so does Spring Bonnie. And now's the time where I can talk about how he works. Spring Bonnie is as basic as it gets when it comes to a survival horror character. He patrols around the building, and if you get too close to him in his line of sight, he'll start chasing you, and he won't stop chasing you until he kills you. And there's also no chance you're going to outrun him. The only way to get him to stop chasing you without dying is to lure him to the side of the office with a door and close it. But you also really have to be careful with how you close this door, because it doesn't work how any normal FNAF door would. It only stays closed for about 2 seconds, so make sure you time this properly.
Nope.
Oh! I closed it! I fucking closed it! I fucking closed it! I fucking closed it! I'm dead. I'm dead as shit. If you do, Spring Bonnie should be teleported to a different room in the building. We maneuver our way around Spring Bonnie and eventually make it to the other exit of the building, only to find that the door is missing too. Isn't life just so awesome sometimes? It's at this moment we hear Richard scream, which confuses me because I thought Richard just got killed by Foxy. So if who we heard just now was Richard, then who did Foxy just kill? It couldn't have been Chris because we saw Chris get killed by the fucker in the vents. It also couldn't be Ashley because it was 100% the scream of a man. And it can't be the engineer because he entered the building in that cutscene 26 or more years ago. This is not important at all, so let's actually continue talking about what's happening, shall we? We head back to the office where we heard the scream, only to find nobody there. we figure for some reason we should go back to the employee room. Why? Ask Shitlips Thomas, because I can't figure out a good reason to go back there, but apparently he's the FNAF expert and not me. Before we can continue, we get another engineer cutscene. We're dragged into a back room and we overhear two people talking. Well, really only one person talking, because the other guy has his voice changer on so deep thinking it'll make the e-girls wet, so I really can't even hear him.
Why didn't you just kill him? Really? Dave, you know exactly what happened before.
The voice I can hear sounds suspiciously like the guy on the phone who called us here at 5 in the fucking morning. He tells voice changer guy that he should just kill us so we don't get away like the other engineer and spread the word about what they're doing. After not doing it, the phone guy decides to just do it himself, so he enters the room and stabs us to death. Fantastic. I really shouldn't have lived in Chicago. Everyone in Chicago gets stabbed. Going back to the employee room, we find the corpse of a police officer. Seeing that his radio had been taken, we now know that whoever is behind this really knows what they're doing. But we figure that because a police officer went missing, that other officers will be arriving at some point to look for him. So knowing all we have to do is survive, this game's most agonizing survival section finally begins. And I get to explain what all of the characters do in grueling detail, because they're all laid on us at the exact same time, and we're just supposed to remember what they all do from the 2-minute phone call we got 15 minutes ago. Hooray. Alright, well, the goal is easy. Just survive until 6 AM without getting found by any of the animatronics. Sounds simple enough. All we have to do is track all of their movements and learn their patterns, and then find a spot in the massive 3D environment where none of the characters ever have a line of sight to, right? Almost, but not really, because one main character. Bonnie. Bonnie is this game's way of preventing you from doing exactly that. On certain time intervals, Bonnie will emerge from the room where the puppet is. Yes, by the way, the puppet is in this game. Don't think too much about it. There are a lot of characters from a lot of different FNAF time periods in this game, so just shut up. Anyways, Bonnie will exit this room and make his way to the employee room to turn the puppet control lever on. Once it's on, the puppet will begin moving on a track across the ceiling that leads to a door which has some chains on it. Why are there chains on this door? Well, it's to hold back and stop the big bastard himself, Fredbear. If the puppet makes it all the way to this door, it will break it down and allow Fredbear to come out. And spoiler alert, Fredbear always knows where you are, and if he gets out, you will 100% die, because as mentioned earlier, he doesn't care about the doors, and he is faster than you are. So, all you have to do to prevent this from happening is go into the employee room and turn off the puppet control lever whenever Bonnie turns it on. This leads to you needing to be moving around pretty consistently throughout this night. Why do that when you could just hide right outside of this room, or maybe even inside of it? Well, that's where Spring Bonnie comes back in. Spring Bonnie, and in fact every character during this section, has a very specific movement pattern that they will walk in. And thank God they do, because memorizing these patterns is the only reason I ever completed this section. Spring Bonnie has the habit of walking into literally every single room in the building, and his line of sight is really large, so you will have to always maneuver around him. Also, if that wasn't awesome enough, with every hour that passes during this section, each animatronic will become more and more agile, which really just means their line of sight increases. Chica is the next character I want to quickly mention, and she is pretty boring as a character. She's just Spring Bonnie, except her path doesn't cover as much ground as his does. Her line of sight also appears to be a lot smaller than his, so that's good news, I suppose. She does go through the main party room a bit during her cycle, and that will become important later when I go over my amazing strategy. Let's cover Freddy next, as he will probably cause you the least amount of issues out of every character in this game. Freddy will randomly spawn in random rooms, typically next to the doorways. All you have to do is not walk directly into him. He won't chase you, but if you get too close, he'll instantly kill you. So really just make sure you're watching where you're going. Mangle isn't that terrible either. Side note, I know its name in the game isn't actually Mangle, but fuck you. It looks just like her, and it crawls through the fucking vents like Mangle, so I'm calling it Mangle. Mangle is also the one that killed Chris in that cutscene earlier too, by the way. Mangle is also incredibly easy to deal with. On the floors and ceilings of certain rooms, there will be large vents. Occasionally, you may notice wires coming out from those vents. That means that Mangle is waiting there, and if you walk by, she'll snatch you up. So once again, just like Freddy, open your eyes and you'll be just fine. Foxy is the only real problem during this night, as he's a random character with no pathing, and is also super easy to forget about. Foxy has the chance to be hiding behind any doorway at any time. The only way to tell if he's there is by standing next to the doorway and listening for quiet breathing. For some reason, you can't just move to one side of the door and check if he's standing there, since you literally can't see him even if he is there, which is something I died to in my playthrough, and you can see that over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. That's really all of the problems to worry about during this night, but Bonnie is obviously the most dangerous. So, how should you go about pulling this off? Well, when this game first came out, there was a super awesome glitch you could use to cheese this entire section. If you remember where we hid from Foxy during a cutscene, you used to be able to hide in the exact same spot, and both Bonnie and Spring Bonnie, aka the only characters that enter the employee room, wouldn't be able to see you hiding there. And since it's in the employee room, it was right next to the puppet control switch, so you could beat the entire section just by standing in one spot. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get the luxury of being able to do that, as in the newer version of this game, during this section only, an invisible wall is placed there to block your path. So I had to play the legitimate way. This is when I started to develop my strategy. I'm gonna be so real with you, it took me about 45 minutes to complete this section. I am complete ass at these types of games, which is why I never play them. I personally really dislike the mechanic of every enemy is patrolling randomly and will chase you when seen, but you also have a bunch of bullshit to do at the same time. I know it's a common mechanic, but it's just never something I was able to get into. Mainly because I don't take being chased very well at all, so it just kind of gives me a lot of anxiety. Here's how this section can be beaten 100% of the time for anyone who struggles with things like this, like I do. I came up with this myself. I'm super proud of myself. I did no walkthrough because I'm the best. The first step is to run out of the employee room as fast as you can and get to the far corner of the main party room to the left of the main stage. You have to be fast because Spring Bonnie will enter this room quickly after. While in this corner, both Spring Bonnie and Bonnie will never be able to see you, which is huge since this location also gives you an easy view of both of them since they enter through the door on your left. Once in this corner, Spring Bonnie will soon pass by. After a while, Bonnie will enter the room. Bonnie is slow as shit, so this will take a while, but once you see him, you can start following him. Bonnie doesn't care so much about killing you as he does flipping the puppet switch, so you can actually get pretty close behind him. Creep, 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 creep. That's the sound I make. Creep, creep, creep. You gotta match your steps with his, bro. Boom, 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 boom. All good. But obviously, if you get too close, he'll still kill you. Once Bonnie leaves the main party room to enter the hallway, Spring Bonnie should be up near the office, so you don't have to worry about him. Take the time it takes for Bonnie to enter the employee room and flip the switch to stand by the doorway to listen for Foxy. Once Bonnie flips the switch, quickly enter the employee room and turn it off. After Bonnie flips the switch, he will exit the room through a door you can't even open, so you don't have to worry about him turning around. After flipping the switch, you want to run back to the main party room. At this point, Chica should be inside. She will walk around the tables and exit the room through the door that both Bonnies enter through. Simply be slow and follow her. Once she leaves the room, go back into the far left corner again. This is now going to begin the second cycle. This time, since the paths that Bonnie and Spring Bonnie take are much different in length, they will be a lot closer together. Bonnie will enter the room first this time, with Spring Bonnie directly behind him. Once Spring Bonnie goes up and around the tables, you can start slowly following Bonnie. At this point, you'll have to be patient, since Spring Bonnie will enter the entrance room, then travel back into the party room, and then go into the hall to the employee room. Then we'll travel to the office. So you will hear Bonnie flip the switch, and you will have to wait probably 30 to 45 seconds before you can switch it back, because if you're too fast, Spring Bonnie will see you. If you sneak past him while he's in the entrance room, it appears that Foxy will always be behind the door to the hallway and you will die. So it's your best bet to just wait for Spring Bonnie to finish his cycle and start walking to the office. I recommend waiting directly in front of the stage during this section since he won't be able to see you. Once he goes down the hall, quickly run into the employee room and flip the switch. Then quickly run back into the party room and go right into the exit doorway. Chica will be entering the party room at this point, and if you're any closer to the stage, she will see you. Once she walks around the tables, once again, you can follow her out and go back to the hiding spot in the far left corner. Now, the third cycle gets a little bit scary, so be ready. Bonnie will soon enter the room again, with Spring Bonnie fairly close behind. However, there is enough room between Bonnie and Spring Bonnie for you to be able to get in between them. Closely follow behind Bonnie and Spring Bonnie will enter the party room. Continue to follow Bonnie into the employee room and shut the switch off immediately after Bonnie turns it on. Immediately run back to the entrance of the party room. At this point, Spring Bonnie should be walking into the exit room. You can take this small window of time to run to the front of the stage. Spring Bonnie will enter the hallway, and once he does, you're safe to go back to the exit doorway. Since Spring Bonnie is near the office, you don't need to go back to the corner. In fact, you actually shouldn't, because Chica will follow behind Bonnie. Bonnie will once again pass you, and you can once again follow him into the employee room and shut the switch. After flipping this switch, this final time, you're home free. Simply sit in the employee room and this nightmare of a section will come to an end. And the best part is, since the movement of almost all of the characters is scripted, you'll be able to use this method to beat this section of the game every single time without fail. I hope you enjoyed this overtly long explanation section. It's easily what took me the longest to do while playing this game, so I figured I should devote a long time in the script talking about it. Let me know what you think. After beating this section, we get a cutscene where we're running down the hallway, being chased by Spring Bonnie. We get into the office and close the door on him, which literally cuts the fucker in half. I love this. This is peak. Absolute cinema. As we turn around, Foxy charges at us, but luckily the animatronic power gets shut off and Foxy shuts down right in front of us. Walking down the broken doors hallway, we see a deactivated Freddy, and Chica tries to kill us, only to get powered off at the same time, which actually scared me in my playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black. We continue to explore the now eerily quiet building. Going back to the exit, we fall to our knees, only for a door to appear in front of us, locked by a code. A voice comes over the intercoms that sounds weirdly like the guy that killed the engineer in a previous cutscene. He tells us that he's impressed by our work and that the animatronics we faced thus far will be deactivated for the remainder of our stay, aside from two, who he calls his favorites. It's now up to us to figure out the code. We find a piece of paper on the wall that says "Find me." Not totally sure what the hell that means. We wander around into the puppet room where we find writing on the wall saying "It's me." Next to this message, we find another piece of paper saying "My back is to the corner." After reading this note, the two threats of this section activate: Fredbear and Mangle. Again, Mangle acts a bit differently, so let's talk about her first. This time, she's no longer in the vents. She's walking around the building. If she sees you, she'll roar like a dinosaur. And if you don't get out of her line of sight in 4 seconds, she'll start chasing you. And she won't stop until she catches you. So just like, run, I guess, bozo. Fredbear, on the other hand, should be scary. But because of an item we got at the beginning of this segment, he really isn't. At the start of this section, we're given a taser. Fredbear will always know where you are and will constantly be crip walking towards you. Except, Fredbear while walking is very slow, so you can easily stay away from him. Every once in a while, he will also roar for some reason, and will then begin to charge at you. While he's charging, he will be faster than you, but when he gets close, use your taser to stun him and he'll go back to walking. So avoiding the threats on this segment is honestly a cakewalk compared to what we had to deal with during the last section. Now, I had a stroke trying to figure out what "my back is to the corner" meant. What you have to do is find Freddy, since his back is to the corner of the wall. Except not really, because his back is just to the wall, not really the corner. Regardless, on his back is another note stating camera 2. I've neglected to mention the cameras thus far, but that's because they're literally completely useless for the most part. Throughout the building, there are several monitor stands where you can place your monitor, because I guess you can't just hold a fucking iPad with your hands. You instead need a holder like a toddler who blares annoying ass YouTube videos while in a public restaurant, and the parents just find nothing wrong with that since they'd rather have the internet raise them instead of them. Anyways, when you place the monitor down, you can look at the cameras. Big whoop. Using your eyes is better in a game like this because you can walk around freely. Regardless, looking at camera 2 now, we find another message saying, I'm here. Going to the location of camera 2, you'll find another note saying, look up. On the ceiling, you'll find the number 7 and yet another note reading inside my head. What this means, if you weren't a genius like me, is that you have to go to Foxy in the office and look in his mouth. Inside, you'll find the number 3 and another note reading behind a curtain. Now, there are 3 curtains in this building, and you have to look at each of them in a specific order, which is dumb because all you're doing is looking behind them. Behind the last curtain, you'll see the number 7, and then some text reading the safest place will start flashing on your screen. Let's pause. I really don't understand why it wasn't just another note. This is supposed to be like an escape room set up by the guy that locked us in here. How the fuck was he able to make us hallucinate a phrase? I don't know. Let's move on. The safest place refers to the office. Going back to the office, we find another note reading the second digit. Obviously, the second digit is the number 3, as it's the second digit we found on this little scavenger hunt. Finally, going back to the exit door, we can type in the code 6373. Fun fact, by the way, you can actually just type in this code at the start of this section if you don't want to go through all the bullshit I just explained, because there's no check here to see if you have or not. But after punching in the code, the door disappears. Opening another door that it was covering leads to another room with no fucking door. Falling to our knees again, all of a sudden the door reappears for some reason, and a bunch of police officers barge in past us, and we're taken out of the building to safety. After being rescued, we're shown a cutscene where Thomas is either being interviewed by police or is in a therapy session. I can't quite tell which one is correct. He freaks out about his friends being killed and then realizes he never heard anything from Ashley. No screams, no body found, nothing. This makes him tweak like when I'm in line at the grocery store and some 40-year-old mom pulls out her own grocery bags to save the environment. You want to know what I do when I see someone using their own bags in the grocery store? When it's my turn in line, I tell the bagger, hey, all my shit, double bag it. Anyways, after this cutscene, we're thrown into the credits, but that's not where this game comes to an end. We actually get a post-credit scene like it's a Marvel movie, where Thomas is in his room. He wakes up in the middle of the night and looks out his window, only to see the silhouette of an animatronic we never saw in the pizzeria staring back at him. And finally, Fredbear and Friends reboot comes to a close. Overall, I think this game was a super enjoyable experience. Did I get overtly frustrated and almost give up while playing the survival section? Yes, but I beat it, and I'm glad I did. The story to this game is simple and nice. There's no retarded digging that we have to do to learn the simplest things like a fucking name of a character, Scott, asshole. We're instead just given a story the way it should be given. A few mysteries here and there, but nothing so overtly frustrating that it makes it not fun to figure out. The game looks gorgeous, it plays well when you understand what you're doing, and overall I would highly recommend you give it a go. Obviously, from the teaser we saw at the end of the game, a second game was clearly in the works. But with no updates for several years, and it being confirmed that at some point the game's development was put on halt, and given the fact that this game came out 7 years ago, I don't think it's very likely we'll see Chapter 2 anytime soon. But hey, only time will tell. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game was actually doo-doo ass rank? Let me know in the comments below. In my next Week at Freddy's video, I asked you guys what FNAF game you guys thought doesn't get enough recognition, and my favorite answer is this one by Seal Bonk. They said the Dormitibus remake, and I agree. I think that title has been dragged through the mud for obvious reasons, and I don't think a lot of people know that a remake even came out. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. The question of this video is, what is your least favorite mechanic from an official FNAF game and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Grab some merch if you like having drip. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!